Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the #1 show all about the world of Joshi Pro Wrestling. Episodes drop every other Monday, where we discuss the biggest Joshi news, review shows, and preview the hottest upcoming Joshi action.
So whether you're a new fan or an old fan, we've got something here for you at Jumping Bomb Audio.
Check us out on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
You know what I want out of my wrestling? I want Bryan Danielson versus Yuji Nagata, and then a week later, Bryan Danielson versus Hechicero.
Yes.
Why? Because fuck you, that's why. That's what I want out of my wrestling.
Rich Crage.
The biggest wrestling story of all time, and these fans whoosh, right over their head. So they can go yeet, yeet,
Yeah.
yeet, yeet, and share Samantha Irvin TikTok videos with each other. That's what we created. Those are the fans now. And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you?
I am Joe. How are you?
I'm doing well. Got a good bit of good day. Weather's nice. NBA Finals starting off. I'm good. I'm doing well.
Big weather guy? Not a big weather guy.
You don't care what the weather is, right? It doesn't affect your day in any way. Nah. Big weather guy. I love that. It is nice outside. Denotes me as a quote unquote big weather guy. Yeah, I guess so. Me and Mike Trout, big weather guys. Yeah, I don't know.
What was a question? I don't know. You big weather guy?
I think define big weather guy. Like, do I like when it's nice out? Yes. Am I like getting in the car and chasing tornadoes? No.
No. Do you wake up in the morning and check to see what the weather is?
Absolutely. Every day.
Oh, you're a big weather guy.
I guess I'm a big weather guy, yeah.
That makes you a big weather guy.
Got the little smart speaker, so I do I'm not going to do it because it's going to go off right now, but I'd say, hey, insert company that I purchase smart speakers from, what's the weather? And yeah, then I go, 73 and sunny, cool. And then I, move on my day. It's nice. It affects the whole day. I guess it makes me a big weather guy.
You're a big weather guy. That's why I was asking. You're a big weather guy. Me, I'm not a big weather guy. I don't think I've ever checked the weather, ever.
You've never, ever checked the weather? Not one time. Not one time have you checked the weather. Time. I don't believe that.
No. My wife, always checking the weather. She you know what she is? She's a big storm gal. That's what she is.
I love it. That's me. Is she in the garage when there's a big thunderstorm, or is she just like telling you about an impending thunderstorm?
She likes telling me the rain's coming. And my answer is always, I don't care. I don't know why you're telling me this. She loves telling me the rain's coming. She loves walking over with the iPhone to show me like the Doppler gimmick.
Yeah.
So look.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I'm like, what am I looking at? It's like colors like moving across the screen of the map. I'm like, look, I have no interest in this. I don't know what you're showing me. She's like, it's gonna rain at 9:38. I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do with that information?
Does she get the does she have an Apple Watch or no?
No,
she does not have an Apple Watch. I don't think you need an Apple Watch. I think it's also built into the weather app. Does she get like the alerts where it's like rain coming soon to your location in 15 minutes or whatever? Do you get?
On her phone, she's got all kinds of absolutely.
So loves to tell you rain's coming in 15 minutes, and you in the den watching a game goes, I don't care.
And I'm like, all right, whatever. Loves telling me about the weather. Will sometimes text me if she's not home to tell me there's rain coming. I'm like, again, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this information. Doesn't affect me at all. Always showing me that radar gimmick with the things moving across the screen.
Yeah, I gotta.
She's big into that.
I feel like it's a little bit more important in Texas than it should, because I admit that, like, while I enjoy the storms or whatever, very rarely do I have to worry about tornadoes. I feel like you should kind of worry about the weather a little bit when you're in Texas.
Why?
I guess you got one person in the household that's doing it. I don't know. Don't you guys get tornadoes and shit out there? You get wild thunderstorms.
I mean, we've had probably 50 tornado watches and maybe a dozen tornado warnings since I've moved here, and not one tornado. So now I just ignore them. Now they come on my phone.
This is the problem. Yeah, this is why emergency preparedness is a problem. Because now you're like, it hasn't happened 12 times. Your theory is if it hasn't happened 12 times, the 13th, it's not gonna happen the 13th time. It didn't happen 12 times prior.
This honestly isn't a high tornado area. I mean, they just don't,
that's fair.
Once every 50 years or something.
You're not in Kansas. You're not in like rural Kansas.
Right.
I don't think you have to worry.
Or North Texas in the Panhandle, where by Oklahoma, where they have to worry about tornadoes. I'm like right in between Houston, Austin, and San Antonio. I'm like 2 hours from each. Like right, it's like that's not really. It's actually not a bad place to be, because even when the hurricanes, we're a little too inland to worry about hurricanes either. You know what I mean? We just get heavy rain. So I don't know. I get the tornado watches and warnings or whatever, and I'm just swiping them right off the phone. I'm like, come on with this shit.
Get out of here. Yeah. Get out of here. Come
on. When I first moved here, the first couple times I was terrified. I would get it at work and I'd be hiding under fucking like doing what they tell you to do, like hiding like under the door frames.
Put a book on your head, getting all hiding under a door frame with a book on your head.
I'm looking for staircases to sit on, because they have the strong walls on each side, and everyone's laughing at me. They're like, nothing's gonna happen, and now I'm that guy. Now I'm the guy telling everybody else, nothing's gonna happen. Everyone just moves on with their day. Nobody takes them seriously. So now I'm trying to figure out how to get my phone to stop sending me that shit, kind of like the Amber Alerts. Like,
I think you're stuck. I don't think you can get out of those. I think the Amber Alerts are tough. That is one that I don't, because it is so loud and so menacing. And then you look and it's like, this kid's like 100 miles away from me. There's nothing I'm going to do. What am I going to do? Like, let's be honest. Even if the kid was like 20 miles away from me, what do you want me to do? Like, I hate to be that guy about an Amber Alert, and it's terrifying. It's terrible. And obviously I wish that I know one, but it's like, all right, in Maryville, Indiana, there's a kid's been kidnapped. And I'm like, I don't know. What do you want me to do about that? I'm probably not going to see a silver Toyota Corolla with this license plate in the next 20 minutes. So I don't know. Exactly. I mean, I guess I'll kind of keep an eye out, but I'm not. Like, you read that and you go, oh, all right. You don't.
Rich. I'm not keeping it.
Who's locked in? Who's locked in? All right, guys, everybody, silver Toyota Corolla, P14786 Indiana plates. We got to look it out. Like, what do they want you to do? Like, what are they
I don't know what they want me to do.
They want you to take to the streets and just start driving aimlessly until you see a Toyota Corolla that's silver.
Look, I get the idea behind it. It's nice, I guess.
The radius is too big, though. The radius is way too big. If it was a mile away from me, if they're like, hey, in your neighborhood, a child has been kidnapped. Okay. I mean, that might be, maybe I know that kid. I might be away. Sending me stuff from an hour away. I mean, come on. I live in a major metropolitan area, too. I get a lot of Amber Alerts. I'll be honest. I get a lot. And it's like, I don't know. What do you want me to do?
By the time I get that Amber Alert, they got to be 3 states away.
That's what I'm saying. They're in Oklahoma by the time I get it. So it's like,
me too. They're meeting in Oklahoma. The kidnappers are meeting in Oklahoma. The ones from my neighborhood, the ones from your neighborhood. That they're meeting in like Topeka, Kansas. That's what they're doing. I can't do anything about that. I know it sounds cruel, but like I try to see like how you can stop your phone, but I don't think you can stop your phone from getting those things. Now the tornado ones, I think I could stop the weather alerts.
Can you stop the national weather alerts? Yeah, I guess your wife's going to tell you anyway. At least if one party in the household is aware of what's going on in the world.
Sometimes she'll be like, hey, pull up the weather on your phone. Like if her phone isn't, and I'm like, how? I'm like, I don't even know where to look on my phone.
You don't even have the apps on there.
I'm like giving my phone to her. I'm like, you figure it out. I don't know. She's like it's this whole thing every time.
I like it.
Oh, hit the clock. I'm like, I hit the clock. Then like the fucking alarm setting thing comes up. And I'm like, I don't know where it is. It's not on the clock. And then it's like this whole thing every time. She's like, swipe left on the home screen. I'm like, I never swipe left on the home screen. It takes me to some random news page I never look at. And she's like,
your swiping left days are over anyway. Your swiping left days are long over, unfortunately. So
yeah. And she's like, well, the weather should be on top of that. I'm like, I don't know. I just give her the phone. Like, you want to know so bad, you look. I could look out the window. It's the same every day here. It's fucking hot. Okay, what are we looking at? There's
Yeah,
your
it's
weather
usually
update.
it's either hot or it's gonna rain or it's just hot. Yeah.
It's here's the weather update where I live. It's fucking gonna be really hot today. That's the update. And in 2 weeks in January, it's gonna be kind of cold. It might get down to 30, which for me and you isn't that cold. For these people, you should see how they panic when it's like 30 degrees. You think it's the Arctic tundra around
Oh,
here
I bet.
when it gets
I was
down
in
to
South
30.
Carolina once when it was 55 degrees, and you would have thought it was. They were dressed how I dress when it's like -10, just bundled up to the whole gills. People talking about not going outside, and I'm like, it's 55 degrees. What? Yeah, and then it got like at night, it got like below freezing. So there was all these warnings out of like how to handle it and what you should do, and all these, and it's pretty wild. Yeah. Now I get they have no infrastructure, and I don't know if that's the case at your Texas area too. That there's just no, it's not like they have salt or plows or any of that sort of stuff.
They
to
don't
handle.
have any.
Yeah, they have nothing.
Now look. When there's precipitation, if there's snow or sleet, I get it. That makes sense to me because they're not equipped to handle it. But they just panic for like cold weather. And they'll be like, "Oh, you got to bring your livestock inside." I'm like, "Listen, I don't have any fucking livestock." Okay. I'm not worried about the livestock. And they're like,
"You got to put them in the barn. You got to put the livestock in the barn, or
I
they go
don't
in
know
the
where
house.
they go.
They go in the
But
house.
you gotta house the livestock, I guess. And then the other thing is you gotta like wrap your pipes because the pipes aren't made for the cold. And
Interesting. Okay. All right. Yeah.
and so that you got to do but my whole thing is like, yeah, but it's gonna be like 38. Like I'm not worried about freezing water,
Right. And tomorrow it's gonna be 62 again. It's like it's probably not gonna last that long.
Right. If you tell me it's gonna be 12. All right, I might be worried about my pipes because I don't want some plumbing bill that's going to be $10,000. You know what I mean? So I might go out there and do what you're telling. But if you're telling me it's going to be like 35, you know what? I'm going to roll those dice. I think we're going to be okay with with all the pipes cracking.
Because think about what you were doing in Jersey when it was 35. Like you're not even putting on a winter coat. You're putting on a hoodie.
No,
Your hoodie weather. That's I'm fine with.
There's days here when it's like 40, right? Where I'm still wearing shorts, but I'm wearing a hooded sweatshirt with the shorts. You know what I mean? I'm leaving the house still in shorts on some of those days. And that's just because you grow up in it. You're more used to it. The people around here, they're busting out, because they all own a parka that they wear once a year. So that's their excuse to bust it out.
That's what I saw in South Carolina.
Like,
I saw the biggest parkas I've ever seen in my life when I was in South Carolina when it was somewhat cold. And I was like, what? What do you own this for? How often? Like, I don't even have a coat that is that big. Or that,
right.
Plush. And I live in an area where for 3 or 4 months out of the year, it'll be, below 30 degrees and below zero many times. And these people are just walking around with these massive parkas and giant gloves and giant hats. And it's embarrassing. It really is.
Yeah, they got their big goose down parkas, and their what's that one brand of parka that everybody has?
Oh, the Canadian Goose. Canadian Goose.
There's the Canadian Goose, and there's where's the other one with like it's shaped like a logo that looks like a rainbow, but it's not. It doesn't have the colors of the rainbow. What the fuck is that brand? I've been in Texas so long and haven't owned a coat that I don't remember the brand.
Anymore. I don't buy these expensive coats, so I can't tell you.
Yeah. So they all bust out their once a year parkas. This is gonna fucking bother me that I can't think of this.
Hopefully someone in the chat room can help us out here. So it's a rainbow without the colors.
I think it's like an outdoors brand, but it got real popular with the youths about 10 or 15 years ago. Okay. You know how that happens sometimes. And then I don't think it's as popular with the youths today.
North Face? Is that what you're thinking of?
North Face is North. Maybe it's North Face. They have a logo with like
it says the North Face, and there's like lines coming away from. You don't even know what. I thought that I didn't even think that one because that's so obvious. I was like, well, he's obviously not talking about the North Face, but I guess you don't buy coats anymore, so you don't know anything about the North Face.
No, that's the thing. I don't buy coats anymore, so I don't have to worry about it. But yeah, the North Face. Didn't that get real hot with the kids like 10, 15 years ago?
It got hot with the kids, and then it got immediately. It was one of those. It's like these things now in fashion tends to go real fast these days. Yeah, where it got real hot. And then it was immediately geeky, and like I had and you know what I mean. Right. It was immediately you're a boomer, you're old if you're wearing a North Face. Right. I feel like it turned again. I think in the last 10 years, it went from really hot to, oh my God, you're so, because then the Canadian Goose came out and all those other ones came out, and Patagonia is a pretty popular brand too for the
Patagonia,
youth. So then that went away. But then I feel like now North Face is kind of coming back because you have obviously the youths are all into 90s culture and that sort of stuff, and North Face was big in the 90s. So I think it's kind of coming back a little bit as well. So that's good because I still have a North Face and I just kept it the whole time because I don't care.
So your North Face was cool, then it wasn't cool. Now it's cool again, and
it's fine.
Now you can take it back out
Exactly.
because now
I never
it's
put it
cool
away. I was like, I'm not cool anyway. I don't need someone to tell me I'm cool or not. I'm well aware that I'm not cool.
Oh wow.
I'm too old. I'm too old to be cool. It's over. When's the last time you were cool? When is the last time you were cool?
Rich, I'm cool right now. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, come on. Jeez.
I'm not sure that I was ever cool, and I don't think I've been cool anytime in the last 10 years. That's all right. That's fine.
See, you're real passionate. See, I feel like you're laying on the psychiatrist's couch right now. Your tone changed when this conversation started. Is this some deep-seated feelings from high school?
Nah, I didn't really care.
Does the nurse break your balls about being a dork? Like, what's happening?
That might happen. But,
I think I found it. Okay, so let me get out my notebook here. I got my little.
Got to charge me for this.
Yeah, I'm doing my little Dr. Melfi over here. On Rich. I think it's the nurse is giving you. She's making you subconscious about how cool you are because she's breaking your balls. I know the dynamic over there. I know what's going on between you two.
Well, sometimes what she does, and she'll ask me for like fashion advice. She'll like walk in and be like, "Hey, how's this outfit?" And I'm like, "You're asking me. Like, look at what I'm wearing. Don't ask me."
Yeah. You're like, what do I look like? Am I Ralph Lauren? What are you asking me for?
Exactly. I'm wearing a lot of times she's asking me this, and I'm wearing like a pair of jeans and like just a random ass t-shirt. And I'm like, look at me. Okay, you're asking me. Go ask. I'm like, take a picture and send it to one of your friends or something. They'll know. I'm not a fashionista. I'm not going to be like, no. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. I never have constructive advice for her. I'm not going to be like, no. Skirt's got to go. Tops to, pastel is passe. Like, move it on. Like, we got to do this. And
that belt with that blouse. Ugh, I can't even be seen with you. Like, yeah. You got to hit her with what do I look like? Johnny Versace? Next time she asks you that. Like, hit her with something like that.
Because, like, most times if we're going somewhere, she's getting dressed and doing all that sort of stuff. As this is happening, I'm wearing basketball shorts and, like, a hoodie. Or I'm wearing basketball shorts and a shirt. And then she's like, all right, I'm ready. And then I just go, okay. And I just go into my closet. I go this and this. And I go, all right, I'm good. And then I just grab, if it's this weather, I wear this. If it's this weather, I wear this. And I just leave the house. And that's it. No thought, no care. Haven't been thinking about it for more than 2 minutes. I just walk in and go, yeah, this is fine. This is wrinkled. This is not wrinkled. What's good? Yeah, with no care and no idea about fashion whatsoever. So yeah, I don't know why I'm asked.
Listen,
I don't know why my opinion is asked for.
I've hit a root here. I've no doubt about it. I've hit a root, and I found the cause of this. But down here it's easy because it's hot. 50 out of the 52 weeks a year, I just buy plain white t-shirts, one size too small, so the guns are always blaring, and that's it. Pair of shorts, one size too small, white t-shirt, you're good to go. Just we gotta make sure you never skip bicep day. That's actually the only day I ever do.
And you
That's
never
the only one I ever do. I mean, I don't do any other day. I just do bicep day. So, it's very simple from a fashion perspective. But Patagonia down here is more of like a I don't know how it is by you, but it's more like the preppy sort of people, or wear the Patagonia more so than like the I don't know, the more it never has crossed over into like streetwear or like urban youth.
No, oh god, no. It's people like me. No, people like me wear Patagonia.
Right, there you go. That makes it, because it was North Face definitely did at one point.
Yes, North Face at one point became cool. Patagonia is not cool, really. It's
Patagonia. You're wearing that with your boat shoes more than likely. Or,
or me. I just wear it all year round, or no, like all winter. I just have like this green Patagonia like sweater that I could put. You could put it over any shirt. I just do that in a pair of jeans, and that's my outfit for pretty much the entire winter.
You're a Patagonia guy.
I like it. Yeah, good Patagonia. Good quality.
Yeah.
Good quality stuff. Good quality stuff.
Yeah. All right. So we diagnosed Rich's psychosis a little bit here just to start the show. And it's that nurse. What you got to do is give it back to her. That's what you got to do. You got to give it back to her, Rich. I know you're not going to do that though. You strike me as a little passive in those kind of matters.
You don't know. No.
You're going to let her break the balls. You will passive aggressively break the balls.
Exactly.
Yes. That's your whole thing.
Exactly.
And that very likely infuriates.
It does not go well. It does not go well.
Yes.
No.
I got it. I got you two all figured out.
Doesn't go well. Yeah, we've been doing audio for a lot of years here. 13 years at this point. So yeah, we're You know what I'm like? Well, let's do. You want to do some wrestling audio at some point here?
I guess we have to.
I guess we should.
You're collar tugging because it's getting a little too close. You're getting a little too personal. See, Rich getting a little anxious.
Yeah, put that notebook away. I don't need any more. We don't need to talk anymore.
He doesn't like that. I'm sure you got the NBA Finals on over
I do.
there.
I don't like this either. I don't like what I'm seeing in the NBA Finals either. So that's why I want to get to some wrestling talk.
Boston's ahead, folks.
Boston is very ahead. Yeah, Boston's very ahead right now. So it's not going great.
That means Boston's up on Dallas. Look, it's game 1. Now, I tell you what, game 3, I believe, is going up against Dynamite next week.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe any sporting event will be going up against NXT next week, which means you can get ready for the worst discourse on earth.
Oh, I love it.
Week.
Yes.
Because I do think that is going to give NXT a very realistic chance of beating Dynamite in both total viewership, where they were very close this week anyway. And, they'll have a chance at the 18-49. They may not, that might be a little tougher, but because you look this week, Dynamite last night, 790 total viewers, 0.28. Both of those up from last week. Now, I did the Thursday Dynamite review in the wee hours this morning and did predict that Dynamite would be up, not because I'm Nostradamus, not because Quasimodo predicted this, but no crystal balls here. But look, they did. This is the first time they haven't been going up against NHL or NBA playoffs in forever. So it would stand to reason that Dynamite would do their best number in a long time, and they did. They did their best overall viewership and their best demo number since April 10th. All numbers courtesy of WrestleNomics, of course. Up 12% in the demo from last week. NXT the night before did another good number after last week's good number, which I believe was due to the Sexy Red, Rich, as we discussed last week.
Oh, yeah. Obvious rating mover, Sexy Red. With two, it's sexy with 2 Y's, right? Isn't it 2 Y's? It's an odd
2 Y's.
2 Y's, which is weird. I appreciate that because you would think it'd be the X's. You'd think you would go with 2 X's, maybe 3 X's, but she goes with the 2 Y's and only 1 X. So that's bold move by her to do that.
Yeah. So I believe that's look. I saw people chalking that up to Ethan Page. He was on the show for 30 seconds and wasn't advertised. Okay, there's no shot it was because of Ethan Page. I saw people chalking up to Jordan Grace. She wasn't advertised. Okay, now the show had a lot of buzz coming out of it with those two showing up. That there's no doubt. And that could have contributed somewhat to their number this week because they were up 9% in total viewers. Now, the interesting thing is, no one's talking about this. They were down 8% in the demo with the 0.22 because I think they did a 0.24 last week or a 0.25 or something like that. So they were down, pretty significantly in the 18-49, even though they were up in total viewers. But the thing about NXT this week is, like Dynamite, they didn't go up against NBA or NHL for the first time in a long time.
Right.
So that makes sense why their overall viewership would have been up, because you would have got a lot of those over 50s that were watching sports, the last couple of weeks, bouncing back into NXT. So I think that explains the NXT and Dynamite increases. I know that explains the NXT and Dynamite increases this week, because they didn't go up against the NBA or the NHL. The other unspoken facet of the Dynamite number being up is, Rich, I don't know if you saw the quarter hours, which just dropped, but something I talked about here last week, something I talked about on Flagship Plus earlier this week. You got to subscribe on the $5 tier with these Flagship Pluses and everything else that we got going on. We'll talk about that later. But an unspoken story was how Big Bang Theory as the lead-in has been down, also because of the sports. Certain games starting at 7 p.m., pre-game shows for the playoffs that also do very well. So, Dynamite hasn't been getting as strong of a lead-in from Big Bang Theory as they have been recently. And I mentioned this last week, and I mentioned it this morning. Big Bang Theory, it stood the reason, was going to be up this week as well, and it was. And you look at the first quarter hour of Dynamite, and instead of opening up in the 700, 750 range when they get the poor lead-in, they opened up right back in that 900 to 1 million range that they were before the playoffs started. 976,000 people watched, on average, the first quarter of Dynamite. So we're right back to the pre-playoff lead-in with Big Bang Theory, back doing the numbers that they should be doing. The last month of Big Bang Theory, doing about a 0.14 on average in the demo. Now, Big Bang Theory, when the playoffs aren't happening, was doing 0.2s some weeks, up as high as 0.24 some weeks. So the playoffs were taking a chunk out of Dynamite's lead-in as well. Now you take away the playoffs, Dynamite gets the right back to the close to 1 million people in the first quarter hour because the lead-in is back to where it belongs. And then Dynamite's overall viewership the rest of the show in both total and demo is back up because of the lack of sports competition. So this was a very easy week to predict. But next week, they're going to go head-to-head with Game 3, and that's going to take a big chunk. And I don't understand why Tony Khan and AEW haven't announced more and loaded up that show that's going up against. They barely announced anything. They announced Will Ospreay and Phoenix, and that's about it, which is baffling to me. So I guess they recognize that there's really not much you can do against an NBA Finals game. But yeah, with NXT going up against nothing next week, there's a good chance I think NXT will probably beat them in total viewership. I think that's a pretty safe bet.
How far were they this week in total viewers?
790 to 768.
Oh yeah, they for sure. They'll beat them in total viewers next week.
It depends how far Dynamite drops. Here. Dynamite last week was 787. So, they were up a couple thousand within margin of error this week. And NXT last week was at 703. But remember, they went up against that week an NHL game. There was an NHL game and an NBA game. I don't know which ones were direct head-to-head. I don't remember. So this week they gained about 65,000 viewers with no sports competition. So if they do the same number next week, Dynamite would have to drop about 50,000 total viewers. It's possible. It's possible. And then, the demo we'll see. But, it'll be the first show after the pay-per-view, right?
After Battleground. This weekend's Battleground, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the show. So, I'd imagine that there's enough newsworthy stuff that happens in that, and they've been a pretty hot product over the last, couple weeks and, really the last month. So, I would imagine that with no competition and Dynamite up against Game 3 of the NBA Finals, I think it's pretty... to me, I'd say it's pretty probable that they're going to beat them in total viewers. Demo, who the hell knows? You never know with demo, but I think with total viewers, that seems like an easy bet to make.
Yeah, the demo should be interesting to follow, though. But it could be the first time, I think, in a long time where NXT beats them in both. I mean, that's entirely possible. As far as the quarter hours for Dynamite, because we got a lot of other stuff to get to, and I want to run through some of these other ratings real quick, too. Again, quarter hour one. Right back to that, and you're going to see this now after next week, of course, with the finals game. But once the sports are done, that first quarter hour is going to be back every week, like clockwork, between 900,000 and 1 million viewers. 900,000 on the low end, 1 million plus on the high end for that first quarter hour as Big Bang Theory gets back to their normal numbers. That's what we saw this week. And wouldn't you know it, Rich? Who was in that first quarter hour?
MJF.
How about that? How about that?
Good
MJ
timing.
Hogan. Amazing timing. He's right back. Right back in the first quarter hour with no sports competition.
This isn't the first time he's done this, right? Because I remember talking about this a little bit during the Brochacho days, that there was some weird finagling of times when he would show up and segments and stuff, and we thought it was a little too on the nose and a little too obvious when he was being placed or when he,
smart guy.
He gets it. He gets it.
Smart guy.
Gets it for sure.
It's and by the way, the only quarter hour on the entire show without an ad break. Just let that sit for a second there too. But again, he's a smart guy. That he wasn't the only winner though. The rest of the show from there pretty much followed the trend line. But I tell you, there were a couple segments that were clear winners. One of them was quarter hour 7, Saraya versus Mariah May, the finish of the match, which was in that quarter hour. And then there was just a bunch of backstage promos and other assorted bullshit. That quarter hour bucked the trend line and was up from quarter hour 6. It gained about 16,000 viewers in total viewers and a couple thousand viewers in 18 to 49. But it did it going against 2 ad breaks, a full ad break and a picture-in-picture. So that tells me, without seeing the minute-by-minutes and judging by everything else that was in the segment, which is just a collection of junk, that people were into the Mariah May match. So to me, that quarter hour and that match was a winner. And then the other big winner to me was Swerve versus Roderick Strong. Now, Swerve's quarter hours have been, none of them have been bombs. Some of them have been mild hits. Some of them have been just trend line. Swerve's match was a big winner this week. Big jump for the final quarter hour of the show to 768,000 total viewers and a 0.27 in demo. Okay, it was a 0.25 and a 0.26 the prior 2 quarter hours. And then the overrun, which was 6 minutes, peaked at the 792,000 viewers on average for those 6 minutes and a 0.29 in the demo. So people were into that match and into the finish. And it bucked the trend line as well, because the trend line last 90 days, WrestleNomics does a great job with that. Typically, you're losing a few viewers going into that 8th quarter hour. This match grew.
Yeah,
and
people were interested in it. People were interested in Swerve. People were interested, and it was a long match too. It wasn't, and there was no promise of interference. There was no promise of shenanigans. It was just it felt like it was like, hey, we're just gonna have a wrestling match here, and we all know Swerve's gonna win this wrestling match, but here it is. We're just presenting Swerve Strickland in the main event in a professional wrestling match, and he will win this professional wrestling match. And that was it. And that's all they did. And it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew. So that's good. That is encouraging.
This is what they want to see, because they're trying to get this guy over as a top guy. This is a very encouraging sign. I know it's 1 week. You can't hyper focus on singular quarter hours ever, but if you've been paying attention to Swerve, I feel like he's starting to pick up a little momentum, and that's a great sign for them, because they need that. Because it would be great if they could really get him over the top as a bona fide star. You saw him own those 2 geeks on Busted Open this week, right?
Oh, God, was that so good. That a man after my own heart correcting them on the PLEs thing, which was fucking fantastic. Something we have fought against for as long as the show's existed, fought against the using WWE language and letting WWE dictate the language of professional wrestling. Fuck that. I don't work for them. They don't pay me. I don't have to use PLEs and Universe and all that other bullshit. Now, if they pay me, we'll talk. But until they pay me, I'm not saying any of that shit. And then, Mark Henry being like, you haven't been presented.
Bully
Ray.
Bully Ray.
No. Bully Ray was the PLE. Mark Henry was the you haven't been presented right.
I thought you were still...
No, he owned Bully Ray so definitively. There's nothing more to say. It was just he put him in his place, and Bully got so mad. It was like the Cameron, you mad gif, where it's Bully's like, thanks for correcting me. Just like,
he tried to no sell it. He was like, he was basically
he turned red.
Well,
he turned red.
Yeah.
It was so good.
He wanted to be mad. He was like, you knew he was mad on the inside. 'Cause he's like, well, PLE, pay-per-view, tomato, whatever you want. No. They're not PLEs, buddy. Swerve was right. We have pay-per-views here. We don't have PLEs here. And I'm so glad he cut him off and corrected him. Enough of that. You can't, again, like you just said, you can't let one company control your language. If Bully Ray wants to be a geek and do that, that's fine. But Swerve very swiftly shut that shit down, as well he should have. That's my champion. That's your champion.
That was great.
He should be doing that.
That's that shit that you always talk about. If you were in the room, you would have a board and say, these terms are to never be said, never uttered on our show ever. Titantron and PLE and Championship Opportunity and Universe and all. There's a whole list of stuff. We could come up with a whole list of stuff. None of these words are to ever be said, and if they are said in a pre-tape, cut and redo it right now, because this is not the language of pro wrestling. This is WWE's language, and we're in a war with them. We're competing with them. We're not doing their language. We're not letting them dictate the wrestling business. So appreciate that out of Swerve. And then Mark Henry doing just some boilerplate bullshit like you haven't been presented well or whatever, and then Swerve just being like, you sure about that? I think I have been presented pretty damn good. I'm the champion.
I'm so glad he pushed back on that too.
I have long segments. I'm in big main events. I don't know. I think
I've been the countdown clock.
Yeah, they put a fucking countdown clock for me. I think I'm getting presented pretty well, Mark. Man, who is how many hours of Dynamite do you think the world's strongest man, MLW Battle Riot 6 appearance member, how many hours of AEW Dynamite do you think Mark Henry has watched in the last, I don't know, 6 months?
He was working there.
I know.
I think he probably watches the show. The thing with Mark Henry is he was stealing money for however long that contract was.
Yes.
What the fuck did he ever do? I mean,
I was told it was like outreach, like he was doing community
okay,
outreach.
how much of that did you notice or see?
Yeah, he didn't
or
outreach to me. I don't know I'm sure there must have been a community that somewhere of people somewhere that he was outreaching to, but it wasn't me. And then I guess
I didn't even see him do it. When did we ever see him doing publicity?
We never saw anything.
Or I mean, and as far as on screen, they tried to make him a commentator and he bombed. And then eventually they let him do his catchphrase every week on Rampage, and that was his entire on-screen use.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guy was just stealing money. I mean, I don't see what the hell they were getting out of that arrangement. And, I could see why they, wouldn't want to. And then he'd go on Busted Open every week and be critical of the place he's working. It's like, I don't know. That to me, at the time I said, what are they hiring this guy for?
Yeah.
And
you and I both said
it.
Yeah, you and I both said it. And people said, no, he's a good community ambassador and it looks good. And okay, I want wrestlers on my wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need community outreach and
the salary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Paul White too. When his is up, he's got to go. Like, thank you for doing that Will Hobbs spot off the truck. Okay. Appreciate it.
The QT Marshall match at All Out. Thank you.
Match.
Yeah.
I actually was one of the few people who enjoyed that. I thought, a couple squash matches on Dark, but what are you getting out of this relationship with these people except paying them 7-figure salaries and, not getting much back out of it. So, anyway, I'm glad Swerve owned those two geeks on that awful show. I mean, that's just a terrible show. Bully Ray couldn't be, more in the bag for WWE, actually quite literally, since he appeared at WrestleMania just a couple of months ago.
Correct.
But anyway, that's Dynamite. Raw, this is another story. People Raw down again. Every week we talk about this. Raw is a little bit down. They were down 1% in total viewership this week, down 4% again in the demo after being down last week. Raw is not by any means a hot show right now. Okay, so, we'll see what happens when the sports are completely in the rear view. I'm sure they'll get a little bump from it. I don't know off the top of my head what was on Monday in terms of the sports. Probably some hockey. I don't think any NBA because the other NBA series was over and the other game aired on Tuesday. But they probably went up against some hockey. Collision. Cheeseboard putting out the bullshit numbers this week, which became kind of a story. Which kind of involves us in a way because Dave Meltzer.
Yeah, we got involved in this. Yeah.
Yeah, because Dave, talked publicly about, the WWE PR putting out the Fast Nationals when it's advantageous to them. But the Fast Nationals what happened with Cheeseboard this week is he put out some Fast Nationals that were preposterous, like 100,000 viewers for Collision or whatever. And then it ended up being almost 400,000 viewers. But what I think happened with Cheeseboard is he mixed up the Collision and Rampage Fast Nationals.
Cheeseboard classic. We should be. A lot of cheeseboards have been.
There is more cheeseboards.
More cheeseboards have entered households, so we need to call them Cheeseboard Classic, I believe.
Cheeseboard OG. We got to go with something
like that. Yeah,
so,
we'll have to come up with exactly the term, but he just saying cheeseboard guy. I think is now it's too vague of a statement because there are multiple cheeseboard guys.
See, Dave's theory is they fed him blatantly false numbers. And I mean, that's possible. It's also possible that they didn't feed him numbers and he just went into business for himself because he would definitely be someone who would do that. But what I think happened is I think he reported the Rampage Fast Nationals as the Collision numbers, and he reported the Rampage Fast Nationals as higher than the Collision Fast Nationals.
Which is impossible.
So what I think, and there was another theory floating around that the Collision Fast Nationals that he put out were actually from the midnight time slot.
Yes. Dave theorized that, and I didn't look at the TV listings to see, if that was true or not, but yeah, apparently that they do air random Collision episodes at, 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. or whatever, just as filler product TV to put on or whatever. And maybe he grabbed the Fast Nationals from that, which of course would be insanely low.
Well, it wasn't even that. It was this week because of the sports. They thought that Collision might have to air at midnight.
But then, okay.
Right. So what the theory is that the WWE people grabbed the Fast Nationals from the wrong 2-hour block and sent it to him, which is a decent theory because that would probably be about 100,000 people. Right. At any rate, no matter how it happened, the numbers were preposterous. And the point here is that it does poison the well. And that's the end game for both. Now, if you think Cheeseboard is going to like post a retraction or say he made a mistake, or, that's never going to happen, because he is very willingly doing their bidding and he's part of this whole process. But they don't care. I mean, because then that's the point of putting the Fast Nationals out, is we all know they're lower than the final number, and it sets the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And then by fucking Tuesday or whatever, when the real numbers come out, it's old news, because everyone has already mocked and laughed at the Fast Nationals all weekend, right? And the dumbest fans, which are, let's face it, most of WWE's fan base, have already bought into the lower numbers. So the damage is done, the work is done. That's why they do it. And this week was a glaring example, and Dave finally talked about it on audio, and now people are claiming that, Dave is making that up and he's got no basis for it. And he's saying, hey, go read the Voices of Wrestling article. And now we're getting dragged into it. And it's like, that's fine. I don't care. I'm not complaining that Dave is saying that. But yeah, this has been a story that we have been on top of for like years now, because we were on top of it at the very start of when Rampage began and these games were being played. And yes, they absolutely supply these numbers, and Cheeseboard OG is the last one standing in terms of reporting them, because everyone else got hip to that. But yeah, Collision was down huge, down 27%. Well, when you're dealing with, they went from a 0.14 to a 0.11, which is a 27% drop, and they were down 9% in total viewership. Did you know though, Rich, that last week's Collision that did the 0.14, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, and I talked about it on Plus, you get this impression that Collision, because the way everyone talks, it's a failure, they need to cancel it, WBD can't be happy. Did you know that last week's Collision that did the 0.14 was the highest rated show, non-sports, last Saturday on all of television?
Yeah.
Not cable. Not just cable. Collision was tied with two network shows as the highest rated non-sports program on all of television last Saturday. But if you go back and, read what people say about the Collision ratings, you'd think that this show, is, if you don't think WBD is happy with Collision being the number one show on all of television some weeks, non-sports, you're out of your mind. This is why they're going to get a new deal. Okay? So there's always context to these numbers, and the numbers are always presented in a negative light by all these outlets, because a lot of these outlets, let's just call it what it is, are in the bag of WWE PR. And this is a story we've been, it's not conspiracy theories, people. It's real. It's real. And I've got the receipts. Go read the work. It's all there behind the pay. In fact, a lot of it's not behind the paywall anymore, because I made a lot of them.
Yeah, you made a lot of it free. And I actually should have.
People need to read them.
I meant to jump on that Dave thing and kind of link to it. And then I was thinking, it's behind the paywall. None of these people are going to read it. I forgot that it was free. So maybe I'll go do that after the show. Not that any of these people are going to read it, or really how many of these people are actually going to read it and go, I'm sorry, you're right, I didn't realize what was going on. It's just a lot easier to say, well, Meltzer says that you did this, and this is just absolute garbage. But what's very obvious, people always say, well, what's the end game? Or why would WWE do that? Why would WWE do that? Well, I mean, it doesn't really.
Well, so everyone thinks Collision's failing.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, go and look at YouTube on like all weekend. Go look at, your insert whatever, wrestling website or whatever. A lot of them are running with stories all weekend that I saw on YouTube, and with a lot of views, by the way. Go on there right now. Type in AEW ratings Collision, or AEW Collision ratings, or whatever on YouTube, and you'll see these 2,000 view videos, 5,000 view videos, 6,000 view videos. Yeah, all saying AEW Collision worst rating ever, and then we got Tony Khan face and a bunch of arrows going down and all this sort of stuff. And none of those people are going to delete that video. None of those people are going to post a retraction. I mean, that's by Tuesday, it's old news. By Tuesday, it's old news. We moved on, and now we're just waiting for the next disastrous AEW rating to go on or whatever. But now that narrative has been controlled the entire weekend, and now everybody thinks that AEW Collision is a disaster, and nobody watches it, and it's stupid, and WWE wants to and again, people say, well, why would WWE do this? Why does it matter? It costs them nothing. It's nothing. They don't have to do anything. Right. It's just one guy has to send a couple of people a thing. of an email, and then that it gets posted around for them, and then they can put their feet up and crack their knuckles and go move on to the next thing. It's like, it's not a lot of work from dirty PR to do these sort of things, and that's what we always say.
Because and then people say, oh, well, Kunawa doesn't have a large reach, so it's a waste of time. Here's the thing, though. Kunawa puts it out, and then all these other sites pick it up.
Right.
So you're not just getting it from Kunawa. Everyone else then picks it up from him. Like Rich is saying, all these, YouTubers, all the, news sites with a Z, your No DQs and your Wrestling News Co's and all these geeks, they all pick it up. So it absolutely spreads like wildfire just from the one guy who puts them out, because as long as they have one person putting it out, everybody picks it up. A quick note, we are told in the chat that the hockey ended on Sunday. So Raw didn't go up against any sports, and they were down again, which is actually kind of very... Look, Raw is not a hot show right now. NXT is a hot show. NXT is a hot show. There's no denying that. Okay? Raw has had these small incremental declines for basically the last month or so. And this past Monday, I was giving the benefit of the doubt that maybe there was a hockey game. There was no hockey game, Rich. And look, the collision number this week was bad. I mean, that was a bad collision number because they were back in their regular time slot, but it wasn't 100,000 viewers bad. And that's the narrative that ended up being set. Rampage, which aired at 6:30, I think it aired at 6 the week before, it aired at 6:30 this week, was actually a big percentage-wise for whatever that's worth, but it's only 255,000 viewers in a .09. So the percentage is, up 15%, up 12%. Well, when you're dealing with numbers that small, it's not. But here's the thing. I actually think that extra half hour is what made up the difference, because I think from 7 to 7:30 is a much stronger half hour of television than 6:30 to 7.
That's so one that working people can actually watch. Like working people
Yes.
cannot watch that 6 p.m. show. Depending on where you like. Central time zone, I'm still driving home from work. I'm not getting home, and it's very rare that I'm going to be able to get home on a Friday and turn the TV on immediately when I get home. So yeah, that 6 is a big that's just a death time zone. That 6 Eastern on a Friday is absolute death television. Everybody knows that. It's just a horrible.
And then most people are home by 7, and then you watch the last half hour. So I really think the last half hour is what bumped it from one week to the next. But these 6 o'clock in the afternoon Rampage, you just throw them out. They don't really matter. They're over now, and it is what it is. And it's really kind of a waste of time to break it down. Then SmackDown was up. SmackDown had a good week. They were up 8% in viewership, and they were up 16% in demo, and those were the highest numbers in both of those categories since April. So SmackDown had a good week. So that's the ratings roundup with the context applied. Really weird that Collision did so poorly back in its normal time slot, but the week before tied for the best rating non-sports on all of television, which is a point that where do you ever see that?
Never. No, there's no.
No one shares that.
There's no videos. I'm looking at AEW Collision ratings videos on YouTube right now, and none of them say the highest show on or whatever, the highest rated non-sport. No, it's just Tony Khan face and a bunch of arrows going down and Collision disaster ratings 100,000.
Yeah.
That's what you get instead. So great, awesome, love it.
So anyway, that's the quick ratings update. We won't do these every week, but they're just interesting right now. We do them when they're interesting. So. But there's a lot to dissect and a lot to talk about. We will talk about the ratings. But what do we got next? More AEW, correct?
Yeah. Let's stick with AEW. So we have some details on the residency coming up. The residency in Arlington coming up. WrestleNomics, Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, obtained the agreement between AEW and the Arlington Convention and Visitors Bureau, as well as the Arlington Sports Commission, in regard to obviously the upcoming residency that AEW is going to have at the Esports Stadium. So some highlights that Brandon shared. He has the whole report up on WrestleNomics.
And let me tell you something. This is some incredible reporting, and I actually reached out to him this week to let him know, because when this story originally broke, remember we talked about it. We're like, this could be like great for them, but we have to know what the deal is before we can say that, right? And now that we know what the deal is, this is obviously looks like it can be a very profitable residency for them. I know you've got some bullet points here. How do you want to do this? Do you want to go through the bullet points? Do you want me to go through the notes that I took. How do you want to do this?
Yeah, let me do the bullet points, and feel free to jump in with the notes that you have or anything. So these are the highlights, at least to me, the things that stood out to me in the report. Again, the full report is up on the WrestleNomics Patreon, by the way, patreon.com/WrestleNomics if you want to get in there. So AEW is paying a 50% discounted rate of $232,000 for usage across the July and August dates. AEW will pay Esport Ventures LLC or Esport Venues LLC $1,200 or $15,000 per event.
120,000.
Sorry, 120,000. Yes, 120,000. That'd be a great deal. That would be a really good deal. No, $120,000 or $15,000 per event for the use of the venue's broadcast suite and equipment. So Thurston,
and then there's another 100, and then there's another 112,000, and that's how you get to the 232.
Right,
that they're
232
paying total.
Yep,
they're paying 15,000 per event, and then 112,000 for some other expenses. But the catch there, even though that's already a 50% discount allegedly, is that the local tourism board might be paying some or all of that, because the local tourism board wanted to broker this deal because they feel like this is going to bring revenue to the area. So this is a real sweetheart deal when you break it down that way.
Oh yeah,
but
anyway, even if they have to pay all these things, and even if they aren't getting anything else, paid for by the tourism boards or whatever, these next numbers are going to really stand out to you.
Right.
So
this hammers at home.
So Brandon reported that the stadium will be scaled to provide 1,290 seats with an average ticket price of just over $45. And AEW could make the venue cost back by averaging about 650 ticket sales across the 8 events. So if they sell just over 5,000 tickets across all the events, they will make their money back.
Now, keep in mind, one of the events is a pay-per-view.
Death Before Dishonor.
That one will be close to full capacity because they would have drawn 1,300 fans in another building for that, right? I mean, so you can knock 1,300 off of that 5,000 figure for the pay-per-view alone, and then there's 7 other events that they have in the building, and that once they do the 1,300 for the pay-per-view, that cuts that 650 average down for the rest of the events, right? So even if the ROH tapings, of which, Brandon reported there's 2 new ROH dates on July 28th and August 16th, which hadn't previously been disclosed by AEW, but were in this report that he did the other day. So even if the ROH tapings don't draw particularly well, you've kind of got some wiggle room to play with that 650 average, because the pay-per-view is going to sell out. And then you figure the collisions will do okay. But yeah, I mean, if they just average 650 fans per show, they're going to break even. Anything more than that is gravy. And, the other thing is, well, actually, I should let you do the rest of the bullet points, right? Because then, with they're able to park their production there and save money on that end too. So anyway, yeah, keep going.
AEW will move in and move out of the venue when not running events, but those are in quotes there. They're going to do this 5 times during the contract, but their production rig will stay in the venue throughout the residence. So they're going to say, that just essentially means that they're not going to just stay there, but all the production rig and everything is going to stay up there. So essentially, they're going to save a shit ton of money by not having to, pack the whole truck up and drive it somewhere and then drive it back or whatever. Even if there is move in and move out of the venue when they're running events, the production rig is going to stay there, and that's the big cost. So they're going to save a shit ton of money that way.
And because this is a broadcasting venue, they don't have to have a production truck that they have to rent or bring to the building either, because all of that's taken care of with the fee. So they're going to save money on the production end by parking there for 30 days. They're going to they're getting a discount to begin with, and they could be saving more money if the tourism board is covering some of their costs. So, as long as they sell the tickets now, this can be very profitable for them. And, this could be something that they could explore in other parts of the country. But go ahead and make that last point, because that's an interesting one too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Brandon does say that the records say that, and nothing's been confirmed, and I don't know that if any agreements really, we know nothing other than that, but it does say that AEW may potentially, or at least offer, a sublet to CMLL or New Japan Pro Wrestling when it's not in use by AEW and ROH. Now, will those companies take it? Who knows? But the idea is that, hey, we have this venue, we have our production rig, we have all this sort of stuff. If you guys want to come in and use it, you can use it. We have this thing ready to go. There's a wrestling ring in there. There's all this sort of stuff, which is potentially pretty interesting, both for New Japan and for CMLL. So that I'm curious if either of them, take advantage of that.
There's a bunch of empty dates where nothing's happening, right? Where they're not, because they're only running whatever it is, X amount of times. So yeah, they can sublet it to some of their partner promotions and then make some of their money back from that as well, because they're not going to let them do it for free. So they could tell, New Japan, yeah, X amount of money, you can come in. We've got the setup all ready to go. And CMLL has been dabbling with the thought of running some shows in America as well. So that's something that Brandon uncovered in the email exchanges between AEW and the venue that, with his request that he put in with the state of Texas, it's public information and he was able to be privy to it. And so there was some email communication that, they might even be able to sublet some of these open dates, which I guess there's 21 open days out of the 30 that they're there. So there's plenty of opportunity for, for open dates if one of these other companies wants to come in and run. But, they'll have to pay AEW. So they'll make some of their money back. Look, first of all, go subscribe to WrestleNomics to read the full report, because there's way more details. We're just giving you the bullet points. He did great reporting on this. And the other thing is, I couldn't believe how much of a great deal this was. So we opined that it could be a great deal for them and very advantageous to do this. I don't see how they don't sell the 5,000 tickets over the 8 shows, considering one of them's a pay-per-view. I think they'll hit the number. But the bottom line is, if the city loses interest on the back end of these shows, and they don't, it's something they tried and it didn't work. They're not selling tickets on the road for Collision. So to me, this was worth a try, and it may end up being more profitable for them than just keeping Collision on the road all summer, where they were struggling mightily to sell tickets. So was that your interpretation too? I think this looks like a great deal.
Oh God, yes. Yeah, it's a fantastic deal. And I thought it was a good deal from the beginning. I think this is a worthy idea for AEW to try, given, the struggles that they've had selling Collision tickets. And it was worth a try no matter what. Like, I don't even know what the context of the deal was. I just thought, hey, try this out, see if it works, see if you get enough people buying tickets, see if this residency thing does, result in, fans coming to the shows consistently and maybe fun shows and different atmospheres and all that sort of stuff. And then I saw this deal, and then I was like, oh my God, yeah. The idea that they just have to average about 650 ticket sales across the 8 events, I mean, they should do that pretty easily. And just selling over 5,000 tickets across all the events, that should be a no-brainer. That should be an absolute no-brainer.
Look at it this way.
Here's a disaster if they didn't do that. And I would not bet that I feel like they're going to very, very easily do that.
But look at it this way, and this is what I'm saying. Because one of them's a pay-per-view, the max gate, okay, if they sell, anytime they sell this thing out, the gate's going to be nearly $60,000, $58,080.
Yeah.
They're going to sell it out for the pay-per-view. So they've got 60,000, okay, banked with the pay-per-view alone. And they're paying $232 total. So they get one more sellout, on top of, they've got all these other, listen, if they didn't have if one of the shows wasn't a pay-per-view, I'd be a little more, okay, let's, maybe not, because how many tickets can these people in this one market continue to buy, right? But because one of them is Death Before Dishonor, and I do believe that that's going to be an easy sellout, it's going to make the rest of this very avid. And again, we don't even know what the real total, what their expenditures are going to be, especially if they start subleasing some of these 21 open dates. So this could be something that's very profitable for them, where they start looking at other parts of the country to try to do something like this.
And other parts of the country might look at them too. I mean, that you talked about the tourism board and Arlington, and we'll see, who knows what it's going to be. But if the city of Arlington sees, hey, we had X amount of, hotels booked and X amount, restaurants and all that classic stuff that you get from, having live sports in an area, in a downtown area, whatever. If all those, if the city of Arlington can speak to how successful it is, other cities might say, hey, look, this is a downtime in our live event schedule. Let's bring these guys in for, $250,000 and let them have X venue or whatever. And I don't know how many other places have venues like this that they can use, but I think it's fun. It'll be fun to explore and fun for AEW to try to do that. And I think, mostly I'm really happy it's going to look and feel a little different for a while. And you and I, we're not against studio wrestling. I think there is a generation of wrestling fans that see studio wrestling as beneath them, or it looks pathetic and sad or whatever. I like studio wrestling. I don't mind it. And this thing is barely studio wrestling. I mean, this thing's going to have 1,200, seats. So it's barely studio wrestling, but I can see how some people might think, oh, it's not a generic basketball arena. So it's like, oh, it looks like your company is I've never thought that. I thought AEW, and especially Dynamite, I thought looked great when it was running a bunch of random ass venues all across. They're running random college towns and these random, we talked about a lot, these random, lower level, mid-major college buildings across the country or whatever. And they were always selling them out and they looked good. And yeah, it was only, maybe 1,500 fans or 2,000 fans or whatever. I always preferred that over let's go to generic basketball / hockey arena in generic big city. They all look the same. There's no difference. And then we're going to have to black out half the fucking crowd because we've only sold 4,000 tickets to this, 18,000 seat arena or whatever. I always thought that kind of hurt the atmosphere a little bit. So I'm interested to see if it's a really super hot crowd and an interested crowd and a crowd, the building looks good. And I think it should. I mean, I've seen a lot of the other stuff that building has done and all of it looks production wise, like really, really good. And you can control a lot of stuff. So I kind of prefer that. I like that. I mean, I like that about old WCW too, that WCW ran a bunch of interesting, unique venues. But I don't know. I was encouraged by it before, and I was more than happy to see it happen. And I thought it was a worthy, risk before I saw this deal. And now that I see the context of this deal, and it's a no-brainer. Whoever negotiated this thing, whether it be, the Kobayashi or if they reached out, if Arlington reached out, whoever made it happen, like kudos to them, because this is a great way to.
Our boy Mookie.
Or Mookie Ghana, yeah, could be our boy Mookie Ghana playing some Mookie ball out here. Could be playing some Mookie ball out here. But no, whoever came up with this and whoever made this deal happen is brilliant, because it helps mitigate the issue that you're having with running Collision. Because AEW at the time when it was starting to already lose a little bit of its steam is right when Collision came. And right when you're having a lot of the Punk stuff, a lot of stuff happened all at the same time. But you have them slowing down a little bit. You have the Punk stuff happening. You have that, WWE getting cooler, WWE getting back to the Paul Levesque era, all that sort of stuff. And then you doubled your live event touring. You know what I mean? You doubled and said, all right, now we need to have people come. And we talked about it at the time too of adding Collision. Had a lot of risk. It had a lot of risk. It was great for WBD, obviously. We've been beating that drum since day one, and you just beat it a little bit earlier, talking about how it's doing well and it's still doing incredible on cable. But really, what we were worried about, or at least what I was worried about, was now you're telling your fan base double the amount of shows are coming to your to where you are, and the time and the gap between shows coming to your area might be reduced by a lot. I mean, you might be able to get a Collision, and then a month later there's a Dynamite, or 2 months later there's a Dynamite. And that's a lot, and it's hard to it's very easy to then burn out an area and burn out a community by doing that. And I think that they kind of did that, in addition to getting less cool, starting to slow down a little bit, the Punk stuff, WWE, getting back to, being the juggernaut that they are or whatever. All that kind of stuff happened at the same time, and it left you with whatever we've had with Collision over the last 6 months, which is this show that, while you and I love it and think it's a great, great show, it's been death to try to sell tickets to this thing. So this is a very worthy bet and obviously a very good investment to try this out, see how it works. And if it works, kick the tires on doing this in a lot of other places. I think that'd be good for everybody.
So they're running 8 shows, including the 2 that Brandon uncovered. Plus there's a day of setup that's blocked out. And then there's a day where they're doing the load out, which is blocked out. And that leaves 21 other days where the venue is just dark, which if they wanted to sublet it out to a promotional partner or anyone else actually who wants to run wrestling there, they could do that. It was also interesting that there's one paragraph that was redacted based on AEW claiming trade secrets.
Yeah, trade secret. I want to know what that trade. Come on, Tone. Get those
that
DMs.
Could be the key to all of this. It could tell us what the local tourism board is paying them or whatnot. And for similar reasons that WWE is fighting in court to withhold that information from the state of Texas to Brandon, AEW is pulling the same thing here with the trade secret argument. And, remember, WWE is currently has a case open with the state of Texas based on Brandon requesting that information, because Brandon wants to know how much San Antonio paid for the Royal Rumble. And WWE is claiming that's a trade secret and they don't want that out there. And now AEW is pulling the same thing here with this redacted paragraph. So who knows? Whatever's in that paragraph is juicy, and I would like to get my hands on it. So here's hoping that both WWE and AEW both lose on that end and are forced to disclose this stuff as public information. But yeah, that's the residency story. And also what we learned was the 8-3 Collision will be airing earlier that day because that's one of the SummerSlam nights. So they're not going to go head to head with Collision on 8-3, and they're going to be taping that, I think, a couple days. Yeah, they're taping Collision on Thursday that week and then airing it on Saturday afternoon before SummerSlam.
Okay.
So that Collision gets a little wonky.
I haven't gotten used to SummerSlam being like the first week of August. That's not when my SummerSlam was, man. I don't know about your SummerSlams, but my SummerSlams were
SummerSlam to me represented school starts next week.
Yes, the end of summer was SummerSlam to me.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is August 3rd, August 3rd Collision. They're going to air it before SummerSlam to avoid getting fucking slaughtered, which is obviously the right move. So a taped Collision on Saturday afternoon. So
and look, this is what's going to happen. I mean, WWE has made it very clear that they really, really like when people pay them to run shows. They've made it very clear that they love when cities pay for them to run shows, and that's not, it started with just WrestleMania and site fees, and then they got a little cute with SummerSlams, and then they got a little cute with Royal Rumbles, and then they tried Money in the Banks, and now we're going to see it over the next 6 months. I mean, they are more than willing. If you're going to pay the money, we'll run a PLE in whatever fucking town and whatever city and whatever country you're going to pay for. And I know Dave Meltzer's talked about this. I mean, his thought is that at some point Endeavor's going to say, look, if you want Raw and SmackDown, it's going to cost you. We have a lot of people that want Raw and SmackDown, and that's, if you can get people to pay for your shows to run, of course you're going to take that. It's the way that, cable TV went, where it started with wrestling, paying to get on TV so they could promote their live events and live shows or whatever, to then Vince McMahon saying, well, how about I pay you guys and you show my show? And they went, oh yeah, we'll do that. That sounds great. And that's kind of how Vince won the war is, hi, I have a bag of money. Stop showing those guys that are, you're paying and instead, or that are paying you. I'm going to give you a giant bag of money. And then eventually it then translates to, networks paying you and yada, yada. And that's kind of what we're seeing now with the live events. And WWE is going to hit that as hard as they possibly can. And that's only going to grow. So they don't want that number out because they don't want these other cities to know what the other cities are paying. Yeah, right.
For obvious reason. And I'm guessing that's what the redacted paragraph in this deal. It's also, that's probably the trade secrets in question here are probably involve some of the money that's exchanging hands. Because between whatever the tourism board is paying and whatever they can get back from subletting the 21 Dark Days, it cuts into the average tickets that they have to sell for each event. They've got the 4 live collisions, 1 taped collision, 1 pay-per-view, and 2 ROH tapings. Those are the 8 events. And then, as I said, there's a move-in day, a move-out day. Those are blocked out. And then there's 21 open dates. And it seems silly to just burn those. So to me, if New Japan or CMLL look, I think CMLL can run that part of the country.
They absolutely should.
They could run North Texas.
Absolutely.
And, it's tricky between Fridays. You don't want to pull too many stars. So you'd have to pick the right day of the week to do it. You'd want to pick a weekend, I would think. Round up all the stars after Friday, bring them up there for a Saturday or a Sunday or both. You have let's see, you've got, you don't want to go head to head with SummerSlam on the 3rd, but you can run Sunday to 4th. Sunday to July. There's a Sunday in July that's open. There's a Sunday, August 4th. There's a Sunday, August 11th. There's some weekend dates. I think CMLL should give it a try because in Texas, you bring the stars. I think you can put 1,000+ people for a CMLL show.
And you can keep some of the AEW guys there too. If you say, hey, just hang around in Texas for 2 more days, and then you're going to face, Hachicero on Sunday or whatever. Yeah, that could sell 1,000 tickets easily.
I mean, I've been to lucha shows here by that Martinez Promotions, and he gets a lot of the big names. And, those shows draw very well, and there's no reason a CMLL show, if the price is right. And look, from AEW standpoint, you don't hold them over a barrel because anything you get from them is gravy.
Right. We already have the damn building. We already paid for it here.
Right.
You don't have to pay us much. Just pay us X or whatever, cover this or whatever, and then we're
gravy.
good.
And so, yeah, you just do the math on that, and it's a nice safe way for CMLL. It's a nice safe, potentially cheap way for CMLL to dip their toes into the American market, which is something they've never really been interested in. But now their curiosity has peaked. Now, it's always been a AAA thing to try to break in America, but now CMLL, they have their buildings that they own and they run their loop and they mind their own business and they're the traditional company. But this might be worth a shot, And with Rocky working in all three of the offices, I'm sure he's talking to his New Japan people to maybe run a strong show on one of these dates. So, it'll be interesting to see.
Well, there's just no risk. There's just no risk to it either. If you're CMLL and like you put that show out and say it sells 600 tickets, all right, well, it's not like we paid for this whole building. It's not like, AAA when they've done many of their attempts at expanding in America or whatever. And sometimes, they would be an absolute disaster. They'd rent out this giant building or whatever and get 1,000 people or whatever. And it didn't go well. There's no risk. So if CMLL does it and it doesn't work, they can just go, all right, well, didn't work. And
here's
they
the
move
other
on.
thing. It's another easy way for Tony to score points with them, to give him a sweetheart deal. You know what I mean? It's like this relationship's going very well. I mean, we saw last night that for the first time ever, AAA adjacent talent worked the same television show as CMLL adjacent talent. And then Meltzer with the bombshell that it's all been worked out. And if Tony wants, he can book the AAA adjacent talent. And we saw Phoenix last night, and Roosh didn't work a match, and I don't know where CMLL stands with Roosh. But we saw Phoenix work a match, and then we saw CMLL guys work a match on the same TV show for the first time. And I was told, I did a little digging. I talked to some of my lucha guys, and Tony Khan himself is taking credit for that and saying that, he has made it happen and he brokered the deal. And one person told me that somewhere around Double or Nothing is when CMLL finally came around on this and loosened it up. And said, okay, we can work the same shows, the same TV shows, because they were able to work the same tapings all along. As long as it wasn't the same TV show, that was kind of the soft guideline that CMLL wanted in place. And again, as I put out at the time, Meltzer reported that, said they couldn't work the same shows together. Everybody got on Meltzer's case. There was another outlet that disputed what Meltzer said. That outlet was wrong. Because I did follow-up reporting on that, and I was told the same thing by my guys, who believe me, my sources know. Okay, Rich, I know you know who they are. They know. Okay,
I certainly trust that person. Yes,
and multiple people.
Yeah.
They know what they're talking about
Right.
when it comes to this stuff. And they all told me the same thing, and they said, "Look, none of these are hard and fast rules. It's guidelines. It's a matter of trust." With CMLL, it's all they will keep you at arm's length until they feel like they can trust you. Tony has earned their trust by being, forthright with them and honest and not trying to screw them or pull. So now they've loosened things up to where they're allowing their talent to work the same shows as some of this AAA adjacent talent that happens to be on Tony's roster. Now, what's the next step? The next step would be, could we possibly see these AEW adjacent talents work with New Japan talent? We'll see. And then if Tony can somehow manage to get CMLL talent and AAA adjacent talent in the same ring, well, now it's time to send Tony to the Middle East. Because then at that point, he's a
yeah, if he
fucking
did
miracle
that,
worker.
if he does that, then I don't know what we gotta. Yeah, this man needs to
this
give
man-
up AEW and join the
Foreign-
U.S.
he needs to
government,
get involved in-
NATO.
in-
He's
in
got to be head of
international
NATO.
politics.
Yeah, he's got to
And-
be something. Yeah.
He needs to broker peace agreements in war-torn countries is what he needs to do at that point. But this is an incremental step, and what proves that Dave and my reporting was that the Meltzer reporting and the Lanza reporting was correct is that Tony Khan is telling anyone who asks, and even people who don't, that he got this done. Okay. And allegedly it got done sometime around Double or Nothing from what I'm told, which tells you that that at the beginning, it wasn't happenstance. It wasn't coincidence that these talents weren't working on the same TV shows. This was mandated by CMLL. They didn't want it. And Tony has earned enough trust with them at this point where, and look, this might not seem like a big step. Rich, this is a significant step when it comes to dealing with CMLL to get them to be okay with this.
Yeah, this is something that's been a problem in the world of wrestling since 1992 when AAA started. It was just
wrestling politics for fucking yes. This is
and people don't know how weird it is. Like people would, and bookers will tell you this too. Guys that run wrestling shows that are booked will, because they don't think of it. You know what I mean? Just some random booker doesn't think of it, and then some guy will say, I can't work with that guy, or that guy can't be here, or whatever. And you got to rip up shows. You got to not book matches that you want to book. You have to tell some guy, hey, sorry, you can't come. I didn't realize that you're on AAA contract, or that you're a AAA affiliated guy too, because it's not always just like guys that are working and actively working in these companies too. It's like where their affiliations are, and sometimes the guys are nervous about it and like, I don't want to. It was just this dumb, stupid thing that existed because it just existed, because CMLL was kind of stuck in the mud on it and just said, no, we're not, and it was, everybody had to tiptoe around it, everybody had to dance around it, everybody had to walk on eggshells around it, and it makes no sense when you explain it. It makes absolutely no sense, and it doesn't really matter that much. But it was just the case, and CMLL felt like they were never going to relent on it, and a lot of people just said, well, it is what it is. That's just how they're going to be, and that's just how it's going to be forever. So the fact that it is now not happening, it's huge. The world of, the use of Mexican talent just improves greatly by having this, and that's not to say that
it's so much easier to book your shows. I mean, you don't have to worry about all this bullshit.
I'm not saying overnight now we're going to get like AAA versus CMLL. Like you're probably not going to. That's probably going to take. You're probably never getting that, but at least at the very least, you can book wrestler X and wrestler Y on the same show and not have to say, oh crap, right, yeah, oh no, okay, actually, sorry.
Oh no, we might. This might blow up.
Right.
The world of wrestling politics and inadvertently drag New Japan into the muck, and you don't have to worry about that. At least the other thing,
the New
that's
Japan
important
aspect
to
too.
remember,
That was another thing too. Yeah, great.
That's right.
That you brought that up, is that it was always this weird thing of like, well, why can't New Japan use this guy? And it's like, well, that's a AAA guy. And they're like, who cares? And it's like, well, they do Fantastica Mania with CMLL, so they don't want to make them mad by booking this AAA guy.
New Japan's never touching AAA wrestlers because for the same reason. But yeah, it's what it does. The other thing that's important to remember is there really isn't many AAA wrestlers that Tony Khan is currently using, because Vikingo is injured. Okay. Commander is around sometimes, right? And we're not even sure if he's a full-on AAA guy. I think he's booked for the next Triple Mania though. And guys like Phoenix and Pentagon, they're not AAA wrestlers anymore, but CMLL saw them as AAA adjacent.
Yeah.
That was the problem. But clearly Phoenix, and I would guess his brother by proxy, are no longer considered no bueno by the CMLL office in terms of, because Phoenix worked last night with the CMLL guys on the same show. This is great because, as Dave said, this now opens up the possibility where Forbidden Door, if you so choose, you can book guys like Phoenix and Pentagon to be on the show now, and you don't have to worry about it just because Mystico happens to be on the show, or Magnus and or Esfingere or Star Jr., whoever else you want to book on Forbidden. Now you don't have to worry about it. At least with those guys. Now, will they draw a hard line in the sand at Commander? Maybe. Will they draw a hard line on the sand on, whatever Black Taurus is calling himself now because he recently left? Maybe. We don't know. But we know there's no hard line in the sand anymore for Phoenix. And we could reasonably deduce that there isn't one for Pentagon by association. So, so that was a big story to me last night. That's a big story. As Tony now Meltzer implies that maybe it was money that made the deal happen. If so, good. So what? If Tony had to pay to help these relations move forward, I don't see a problem with that. If it was a matter of greasing the wheel a little bit, whatever gets it done, whatever makes things easier to book your shows and to have this novelty of a Forbidden Door show that you can't put AAA on the fucking marquee like you do AEW, New Japan, Stardom, ROH, but people will see these AAA adjacent wrestlers and know the score. So it's almost like including another promotion in the Forbidden Door concept, which, all of this is a big plus. Who wins here? The fans win here.
Right.
That's who wins here. The fans win with this one. And you just love to see it. You love to see these politics that have been in place for so long a small piece of that wall has now been torn down, right? And again, like you said, I wouldn't hold your breath for, Vikingo versus fucking, Mystico at Forbid. Like, okay, let's pump the brakes on what's possible.
I don't think you're getting a pay-per-view in 2024 that's CMLL versus AAA, and it's all these dream. Probably not happening anytime soon.
Right.
But maybe,
listen,
it could. And that's different than at any other point in the last, 30 years. It could happen.
My sources kind of shit on the idea that it may have been money that would, the people I talk to insist to me, as they did at the start. You can go back and read the report I wrote. Okay. And you'll read all the same things I'm saying now. And they're still insisting to me now that it's all, when it comes to CMLL, it's all about trust and establishing trust and not burning their trust. And they feel like that. And remember, that's what I wrote originally. I said, it's going to take time and it's going to take trust. And then CMLL they're almost like, it's just a hard nut to crack. But once they trust you, they're willing to do more. And here's the other thing. Tony's been a great partner to them. He sent Bryan Danielson down there twice, and both times they filled that fucking building. Now, look, they're not struggling to fill it these days, but there is a difference between almost selling out and selling out. And when Danielson went down there to wrestle Blue Panther, and when Danielson went down there with the Blackpool Combat Club, those were legitimate, super no vacancy full houses with people hanging from the rafters and every seat filled. So I'm sure CMLL appreciates that Tony is sending real stars back, not, the bottom of his roster or, just token gestures to make everything work. You could argue that CMLL has gotten bigger stars in Arena Mexico than Tony has gotten on Dynamite. Now, Tony has gotten Mystico, right? And Tony has gotten Volador Jr. Some of the other guys, though, like your Star Juniors and people like that, they're not huge stars, right? So, Tony has done well by them in the relationship as well, which probably has helped, break down these walls and they trust him more now, and it doesn't hurt that Rocky Romero works for all three fucking companies.
Rocky, man. Yeah. That dude is at some point in the next 10, 15 years, we're going to really understand how important that guy was to kind of getting did he make the deals happen all the way that Tony maybe did? Probably not. But man, there's something to be said for him dipping his toes in every one of these little companies and being able to kind of go back and forth and be the liaison in a way that very few guys have been as successful doing. So yeah, it definitely credit to Rock, and I'm sure CMLL as well.
Well, you're going to get a DM now because everyone who's crediting Romero, Tony's like, hold on now, it's me. That's classic Tony.
Well, it'd be nice for Tony.
That's classic Tony.
Well, he hasn't responded to a lot of my DMs lately, so maybe that's not bad. If he finds the DM box again, that'd be nice. I have a lot of questions for him.
That's all you got to do. Keep pushing that narrative, and he'll tweet a thank you to Rocky Romero. And,
Right.
That's classic Tony, though.
That's classic Tony, but that's good. I want him to get those DMs
done.
again.
He wants the credit.
Yeah,
he wants the credit if he gets something done. But now, to be fair to Tony, he's willing to take the blame. Like, he'll tell you, look, I'm the booker. For better or worse, I'm the booker. So from that standpoint, you can't really knock him. It's not like he passes the buck when things don't go well. But that man wants his credit when he feels like he's the one who got something done. So, and in this case, he got something done. So,
well, I was going to say, too, I wonder if CMLL is starting to see a little bit of a groundswell of American fans and English-speaking fans subscribing to them on YouTube, watching their stuff, engaging with them on social media or whatever. And it might be a proof of concept of like, okay, this is good, because I truly don't believe that AEW is competition to CMLL. I believe that they're enough different. And I don't know that there's many people that are like AEW fans. Then they find out about, Esfinge, and then they go, fuck AEW. I'm never going to watch it again. I'm only going to watch CMLL. I mean, I or the other way around, or a CMLL a fan from CMLL sees AEW and goes, oh fuck, I'm never watching CMLL again. I feel like they're complementary in that way, that they're very different and their approach is different, and they don't obviously have head-to-head shows or whatever. And yeah, I'd imagine that there are probably a lot of people. I'm sure there's people listening to this show that have subscribed to CMLL on YouTube or have watched CMLL because of us, and a big part of that is being able to kind of. And we would do it anyway because that's what we do on the show. We don't really care. But I know that there is a much more awareness of a lot of the top CMLL guys now than there was 5, 6, 7 years ago. And it's easier for you and I to go on a show and talk about these guys in CMLL. And most people aren't just like, oh, who the fuck are these guys? These people know who these guys are. You know what I mean? They know, and that's good. There's a value to that. There's a benefit to that. We see them, and they work with MLW as well at the same time. So I think CMLL has maybe gotten out of not their comfort zone, but they've gotten out of kind of their old ways because they were kind of stuck in the mud for a lot of years. And it worked out great for them, obviously. But they were stuck in the mud for a lot of ways, and I think this is healthy to kind of move forward and try to find new and different things. Did you see on June 22nd, Zack Sabre Jr. going to CMLL as well? You were talking about them, getting top talent. Hechicero ZSJ on 622. That's going to be that's going to be a hell of a match.
Yeah. That's a bone for the hardcore fan down there.
For the sickos, the sickos like me. Tone tweeted that this week, right? Didn't he? Something got announced, and he said, "Yeah, for the sickos like us."
ROH. he said ROH is for the sickos.
Okay.
He said, so,
yeah, well, I ain't that sick.
All right, so
not that sick. Sorry, Tony.
No, I'm not sick enough for ROH. No, I've never had the flu, so I that's a sickness I'm not going to catch.
Yeah, not that sick. Not that sick.
Weekly ROH. But so on June 3rd, that was Monday, I guess. Earlier this week, a few weeks ago, I talked about how, until these NBA deals are finalized for the A, B, and C package and they're officially announced, don't discount the possibility of a newly created D package being carved out for Warner Brothers Discovery, because there was a lot of talk of that. And there is a lot of talk within the industry that Warner Brothers Discovery has matching rights in their last contract that Zaslav is going to be that the NBA doesn't agree with, but that they feel like Zaslav might be fanatical about. So they think, just to avoid going to court and ugliness and bad PR, maybe we should just carve out a fourth package for WBD and make them happy. Well, on Monday, a listener who happens to be a reporter in the sports world who covers, I think he works for the AP, if I'm not mistaken. But this is someone who covers real sports and covers real teams. And he was covering a baseball game last weekend. And there was another reporter covering the game with him who was described as someone in a good position to opine on such things, who knows the right people in this case. And again, this is a real world sports reporter who happens to be a listener to this show, and knows that we talk about this topic nearly every week. So he reached out to me and he said that this other reporter was talking casually about how he thinks the NBA is going to carve out a fourth TV package for WBD, and that the talk amongst inside the sports media world is that Adam Silver and the NBA brass have just, Zaslav has gotten under their skin. They don't like the idea that he might possibly take them to court over this idea that he thinks he has a right to match either the NBC offer or the who's got the C package, Amazon, or is it who was it again who got the C package?
Well, so you have ABC, NBC,
streamer.
and Amazon. I believe it is Amazon. Yes,
Amazon is this. Yeah, so the best way the word is the best way for the NBA to avoid this is to carve out some game. And I talked about this about a month ago. Is to carve out some games from that C package or slice off some games from all of these packages and create a little mini package for WBD just to keep them happy. That'll also come at the kind of discount that Zaslav's looking for, right? So it kind of works for everyone. It avoids a lawsuit. It avoids an ugly fight. It avoids bad PR for the NBA. It keeps the NBA on WBD, and it keeps, and it'll be the cheapest of the four packages, which works for Zaz, right? So I was like, great, I'm going to talk about that on Thursday. Well, my spot kind of got blew up because then that story ended up breaking mainstream, right? So you got information on that. So so a few other
people,
what I just laid out came out officially.
It did, yes. So obviously, to kind of catch people up of what's going on with this, Wall Street Journal reported earlier in the week that the NBA 11-year pact with NBC, ESPN, and Amazon for a $76 billion combined TV deal, $76 billion. But Michael McCarthy of Front Office Sports says, not so fast, my friends. Warner Brothers Discovery is negotiating with the NBA about the possibility of a fourth media rights package, which could include some regular season and playoff games as well. Now, Real GM had a little bit about this as well. It said, quote, when CEO David Zaslav began negotiations with the NBA during the WBD's exclusive window, he expected to pay between 1.8 and 2.1 billion to retain the, quote, B package and refused to go to 2.4 billion. This then allowed NBC to enter talks at 2.6 billion, an offer that was virtually impossible for WBD to match. So that's how we kind of got to this point now. So obviously, right. WBD saying we're still interested in having the NBA, but we want it at a much, much less than, we're willing to go 1.8 to 2.1 billion for the B package. We're not going to go to 2.6. NBC said, sure, we'll take that B package for 2.6. And they said, we're out now. And now they're negotiating that D package. Now, I don't think that the D package is going to be any amount of money that's going to cause them to be out of the run. Because if you're reading this as, oh man, now AEW, they're not going to sign AEW anymore. I don't think that whatever this D package is going to be is going to cause them to not have money allocated or enough money that they could possibly allocate.
No, it might end
AEW.
up costing them less than they were planning to spend originally,
right.
when they were right. So again, they're still going to have money to burn in that case if they do end up with some sliver of a package, which is also going to allow them to keep inside the NBA. Which is it's almost that's almost as important to them as the games themselves.
That's
right?
kind of what all this is. Yeah, this is kind of what it's all about. Is they really just want inside the NBA to survive. But I do know that Adam Silver did a press conference before. I'm reading this as it's happening, so give me 1 minute because I know he was asked about the WBD negotiations in the press. It's weird. You asked a commissioner of a league gets up and you ask him real questions and not just fluff. Like, are you excited for the NBA finals? You ask him real questions about stuff. It's wild how you can do that. He says, I will say directly to me, to the people that seem the most impacted right now, the folks at Turner Sports, I apologize that this has been a prolonged process. I know that they're committed to their jobs. No one likes this uncertainty. I think it's on the league office to bring these negotiations to a head and conclude them as quickly as we can. It has been difficult. That show in particular, Inside the NBA, is special, and I have a close relationship with everybody who's on that show from the time they played in the NBA, and I have been friends forever. At the same time, it's not just the on-air talent, of course. I mean, there's hundreds of people who are involved that I still refer to as Turner Sports, who've been longtime friends and colleagues and no different at other networks. And on one hand, the league's standpoint, it's fantastic to be liked and to be wanted and to have multiple suitors. At the same time, Adam Silver's very long-winded if you haven't known. At the same time, it makes me uncomfortable that it's zero sum, that at the end of the day, there's only going to be so many television packages. There are only so many final games and so many playoff games and regular season games to distribute. So doesn't sound like a guy
he's annoyed.
Yes.
Here's what my guy told me too, and this is an important piece of this.
Well, they can sue him.
This all would have been announced already if they weren't fearing this litigation from WBD. They wanted to announce all of these new deals before the finals.
They floated out on Monday. They floated it out that the deal is done. It's 11 years, 70.
That's right.
They had the 11 years, 76 billion. Nice, good numbers that they sent out there, and everybody had. NBA signs new deal for 11 years, 76 billion. But if you read the headline, it's nothing is official, nothing is signed yet. So it was like, well, hold on a minute, that doesn't mean anything.
It's WBD that's holding all this up, because if they didn't have that threat of litigation hanging above their heads, the NBA would have announced all three of these deals already.
Yeah.
So that's what's holding all this up. Now, why are we talking about this on a wrestling podcast? Well, obviously that's probably what's holding up the negotiations with AEW, because AEW is small potatoes compared to this, the billions they're going to spend on whatever they ultimately end up with. I think WBD is going to end up with some kind of NBA package is how I think this is all going to shake out. Because if the NBA felt that WBD didn't have any kind of case, right, they would just tell them to piss off and they would announce their 3 deals. They wouldn't even be playing these games at this point. They're trying to figure out a way to get Zaslav and WBD off their back. They know that he doesn't want some big time package. He wants a couple NBA games so he can keep don't be inside the NBA and keep his NBA games so he can have that on his, on the roster of sports but what this could be doing is delaying the negotiations with AEW until this all gets settled. So there's a ripple effect here and shit rolls downhill, and AEW in comparison to the NBA deal is on the bottom of that fucking hill. So But again, I agree with you. If they do end up with some carved out D package of garbage games, it's not going to cost them the money that a real package would have cost them. And I don't think it's going to affect the AEW deal at all, which I am still very bullish on AEW getting. I think AEW at this point just knows they're in the driver's seat and they're playing hardball to get as good of a deal as they could possibly get. Because I think they know they're in control here. Because again, even Collision is often very, number one on Saturday. So, and Dynamite's a huge cable winner. So, despite the fact that they've lost a lot of total viewers over the last year or so. So, anyway, that's what's going on with this saga of the NBA and AEW media rights.
Yeah, well, and while you're doing that too, I listened to a little bit of Silver, and I read those quotes. He's annoyed. He's very annoyed.
He's annoyed. He's very annoyed.
I know Adam Silver's tone and his thing of, I apologize to everybody at Turner. I apologize that this is taking too long. I apologize that you don't know if you're going to have jobs or not, is basically saying, Zaz, cut the shit. It's essentially, knowing the translation there, I'm sick of this shit. Zaslav, either make a deal or figure something out or say you're out. Like, drop the litigation, do something, but we're ready to go on. We're ready to move on, and you don't want to move on. And now we have to figure out something.
Hey, listen, I'll read you the exact quote from my guy. It says, quote, "You can add Adam Silver and the NBA brass to the list of people Zaslav has pissed off big time, but cleaving something from the C package is the best way to avoid a lawsuit, this person predicted." And then he goes on to say, NBA people are steaming. They wanted to announce the new deals going into the finals, end quote. So Zaslav fucked up their entire PR play.
Oh, yeah. Adam Silver was planning on sitting at that podium or lectern. I don't know. I always forget the difference between a podium and a lectern or whatever. He was planning to sit on there and say, I am very honored to announce that the NBA has signed a brand new 11-year, $76 billion. Instead, people are saying, hey, why haven't you announced it officially? And what's holding up the announcment? And that's when he had to answer that question.
It's, maybe getting sued. That's what's holding it up.
Right. So, and
they don't want to deal with that. They just, and it's a big mess. So, we wait on that, and we wait on the potential AEW.
Right.
Deal.
And then, like you said, when the shit rolls down at the hill, and then eventually it's going to be, okay, we're finally done with the NBA. All right, let's do this AEW thing. All right, here you go. Here's, some $1 billion.
And you got to remember, too, in the media world, people are laughing at Zaslav for dropping the ball with the NBA.
Yes.
He's a laughing stock for losing the NBA. So, when that happens with these people who are rich and powerful, okay, they sometimes cease making rational decisions, and it's all about saving face at that point. So he could be at the point where he's like, I have to retain the NBA in some form or fashion, because when I go to my cocktail parties, I don't want the other billionaires snickering at me.
Right.
I don't like how the media is writing about me. I don't like how Puck is doing their podcast and describing all of my negotiations as bungles. I'm not a fan of this. So if I have to threaten litigation, I'm getting the NBA back on my networks. That could be a piece of this. That's
For sure. Yeah. The rich live very different lives than us. Like, a lot of people say that, like, certain guys over the world, and there's many examples of this, so there's not a particular one I have, but, over decades, and it's kind of gotten a little bit too, because it's gotten a little too rich, but owning a sports team felt like a lot of guys, like, just something you did because then you could go to those cocktail parties and say, I now own the Cleveland Cavaliers or whatever. And, like, you can't really do that as much anymore because now it's gotten such a big business. But for years and years and years and decades, it was like a lot of these guys just owned sports teams just so they could go to these parties and brag about how they owned a sports team. And that was seen as like, oh, I own the Texas Rangers. And whoa, that's cool. Hey, great. And don't think that these guys don't want to, Zaslav doesn't want to see the guy that's bungling all these deals and then show up, like you said, to those parties. And then people say, whoa, what happened with that NBA negotiation? Whoa, you guys don't have anything anymore. Like, no, he probably doesn't want to do that. So he's going to want to try to save face some way, somehow.
Yeah. So we'll have to see how it all plays out.
But seems to be not great at his job. Unfortunately, he seems like a guy who, for some reason, thinks that these leagues are, like, beholden to him. He's like, hey, I can give you, $1.8 billion. And they're like, well, NBC's going to give us 2.6. And wow, well, we're going to give you 1.8. He's like, well, no, we're going to go with the money. So I don't know. He seems to think that, like, some sort of loyalty to Turner is going to keep these leagues. And it's like, nah, they don't care. They just want money, man. At the end of the day, money is.
These leagues will take every fucking nickel. They don't care where it's coming from. So there's no such thing as loyalty
or consistency or whatever. Because like we talked about, I think one of the things that we've talked about over the last couple of and it's going to happen with wrestling too, to kind of circle back with Raw, where it's just like, we don't fucking care. Yeah, Netflix, take Raw, put it on Tuesday, put it on Wednesday. We don't give a fuck. Just pay us a bunch of money. SmackDown, you guys want it on USA? Great. You want it on Fridays anymore? We don't really care. Put it wherever. NXT, CW, who cares? Make our fans go to 7 different networks and 6 different things and change the nights, do whatever. Just cut those checks, man. As long as those checks clear, we don't give a fuck what you do with our content and consistency and what, you know, people are used to or whatever. And I think maybe that's what WBD was thinking is, oh, well, you know, there's some loyalty here because we've had the NBA for X amount of years, and the NBA is like, we don't fucking care. Just give us money, and we don't care. So we're going to put our shit on Amazon. We're going to put our shit on ABC. We're going to put our shit on NBC. We don't care. We just want a bunch of money. We just want to sit up and say, hi, we just signed a deal for 11 years, $76 billion. We just talked about the NFL. You need a fucking abacus to figure out what's going on in the NFL this year, of what network is going to show what game at what time on what, you know, what streaming platform. The MLB is a disaster these days. I mean, fuck, there's so many different ways that you can watch a nationally televised MLB game these days. They don't care. Cut a check. That's all that matters. The money. We'll make our fans chase these fucking games. We don't really give a shit. We don't care who's watching them. WWE doesn't give a shit anymore. Hey, you paid us. It's up to you now. Figure it out. You know, international deals, pay-per-views, TV ratings, we don't care. That's your problem now, not ours.
Yeah.
Anyway. So that is that. All right, let's talk about some other world of wrestling things here. Let's go to New Japan Pro Wrestling because there's a lot going on in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Obviously, they have their Dominion show coming up this weekend, Dominion 6-9 in Osaka Joe Hall. It will have the Best of the Super Junior final in the main event. I do want to talk first about Hiroshi Tanahashi's 10-point plan. So obviously he is the president of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he had a little bit of a 6-month. It was 6 month, right? A 6-month kind of, here's how I've done in 6 months, and here's what we have moving forward. And essentially he presented this 10-point plan. And thankfully, Chris Samsa at the Chris Samsa put together a pretty good notes here that I think we can use here. And it's up on Twitter as well if you want to follow him on at the Chris Samsa. All those notes are up there as well. But Tanahashi's 10 points here. Number 1 point, talent discovery and developmental. Young talent should wrestle in more high-level spots. Wrestlers still need to earn their spots in tournaments like the G1, and New Japan wants the best wrestlers in their early 20s in Japan. So, Joe, what do you make of point number 1, talent discovery and development? He's not really doing any of those, right? That's kind of where I'm at with those. It's a lot of the New Japan stuff over the last couple of years has been very heavy on youth. We have the New Japan World Title. It's for young kids. It's for the. I think they got to talk to their booker here a little bit because young talent is not in high level spots. To my mind, I don't think they're in enough. I think they should be in more high level spots. And at one point he says wrestlers should be in more high level spots. Wrestlers still need to earn their spots in tournaments like the G1. But then also New Japan wants the best wrestlers in their early 20s in Japan, which I don't know if that means that we want to, sign people that are in their early 20s or that we want our developmental to be in a way where the best wrestlers in the early 20s are all wrestling in New Japan because they came through our dojo and they were ready to go. So what do you make of that first point?
The talent discovery, I had to go. I was going to piss my pants.
You're good.
So I had
You're
to
good.
run away
I
for a
noticed
second.
it. I got it. We're good. You didn't have to say anything. I knew it. I was going to clear for you. I covered for you.
Your instincts, you knew I wasn't there, and your instincts jumped it. Yeah. So what do we do? Just point number 1?
Just point number 1. Yeah. I don't want to say it again, so just read it.
Yeah.
I read it twice.
I mean, look, that one, there's no insight to be gleaned. Yes, of course, you want to discover young talent and the best wrestlers in their early 20s in Japan. Why wouldn't you? And wrestlers still needing to earn their spots in the G1. He really didn't say much with the talent discovery and development piece, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just think he needs to talk to his booker because I don't think his booker agrees that young talent should be the paramount part of the company. But elevating the value of title belts. It is important to clarify the role and concept of each title. Strong titles will be defended on U.S. shows only going forward. Company acknowledged that the titles are about to be combined at Dominion. Says, quote, the process may take time. I don't know what that means. The company acknowledges that 13 titles may be challenging to follow. Do you think? And this process may take time, 12 to 18 months. I really don't think it does take 12 to 18 months. I think you just get rid of a couple titles quickly and nobody cares.
Well, this point I think is interesting, and I'm all aboard with all of this. I am a big look. I did audio on AEW's titles about a month and a half ago. I think it's very important to, as he says, clarify the role and concept of each title. If you're going to have all these titles, no matter how many titles you have, the fans have to understand what the title is, what it means, and what its role is. Is it, in AEW's case, is it a title that's going to be defended on TV every week and sort of play the role of the traditional television title? What's the most important title? What's the second most important title? Are you going to have a title that's more gimmicky? Or, how are your titles slotted? Is this a title that mid-carders can hold, or is this a title that has a little more? All of those things should be very clear. So he's absolutely right that they need to do a better job clarifying the role. Remember when the Never title was kind of built around the guys who just beat the piss out of each other, Ishii and Makabe, and back in like 2015, there was a clear role and you knew what the Never title was all about in those days, and that's a good example of it. So he's right about that. As far as the strong titles, I have an opinion on this that they clearly disagree with. They wouldn't exist if it were up to me. I don't understand.
I would get rid of him tomorrow.
Why? I wouldn't even have the New Japan Strong branding wouldn't even exist if it were up to me. I think that's a negative. Okay. I think when you put New Japan Strong on an American New Japan show, it gives you the perception that you're not getting a true New Japan show. Just call them New Japan shows. Okay. As a ticket buyer, I'd rather know that I'm going to a authentic New Japan show than something called New Japan Strong. That's going to have a mix of American indie wrestlers and American dojo guys and maybe a couple. Just call it New Japan. I don't understand why this New Japan Strong thing even exists, let alone the titles. Just run New Japan shows in America and bring your fucking champions from Japan and put them on the shows.
Yeah.
I don't think New Japan Strong should even be a thing, let alone all those dopey New Japan Strong titles, which I think feed into his other points that 13 titles is just too many. So I'm glad that they're combining some of the titles. I'm with you. I don't know why it takes a year and a half. I can get rid of 6 titles tomorrow if I wanted to. Okay. But I think it's smart to consolidate the titles. If I were running things, New Japan Strong wouldn't even be a thing, wouldn't exist. And by in relation to that, the New Japan Strong titles wouldn't exist. If you want to have, one New Japan champion that works all of the American shows, but you know what? They had that. It was the New Japan United States title or whatever when Omega won it, and then they fucked that up.
Right. They had it. That's what the title was for.
And it was prestigious, and they fucked it up. And then they rolled out all the Strong nonsense, which all of them just feel like secondary, almost like developmental. They don't even feel like real New Japan titles because of the shitty Strong branding. I think the Strong branding is a massive negative.
I think they can get rid of these titles a lot quicker than he thinks. The Strong Women's, I think,
absolutely,
because they're doing. If I remember correctly, the Forbidden Door Mercedes
title for
Stephanie Vakir, it's title for title. So Mercedes wins that thing and then they just retire it. Right? Just say
goodbye.
Just so that one's gone. Obviously, at Dominion, we're doing the title there, and it obviously will be unified in the end of that match. So I think at that point, boom, Strong openweight tag team titles gone.
On, which one? Which other one?
Tag titles. Tag titles. Yeah. And then all that's left is the Strong openweight, and Gabe Kidd has that one. I don't know. Gabe Kidd could just say, "Fuck this title. I don't want this thing. I want this title." I think he's the kind of character that you can just have him throw a title down and say, "This shit doesn't matter to me. I want the never openweight title or whatever." And you just it's there's no lineage to the Strong openweight title. You can just get rid of that thing tomorrow.
No,
nobody fucking cares.
No one cares about it. And here's the thing: that's the one you could argue keeping, because you could say, "All right, if you want to have a champion for the American shows, I understand." But again, the IWGP US title. That's why that was created, and it was perfect, and it felt prestigious, and they blew it. This thing doesn't feel prestigious, the Strong title.
No.
It just doesn't. And this company doesn't need to have 2 women's champions. They went from not having women at all to 2 women's champions. I mean, what are we doing here? You don't need it. So thankfully, they're getting rid of one of those. And, you keep the IWGP women's title. That's fine, because if you're going to have women's matches, you got to have a champion. You need to have a champion, but consolidate these tag titles. I've been screaming about that. You can get rid of very easily the King of Pro Wrestling thing if you want to get rid of it. You can get rid of the trios titles very easily if you want to get rid of them. You can get rid of the TV title. I like the TV title, but if you want it, you know why I like the TV title, Rich? Because it speaks to point number one.
It's, you know,
it
what
has
it
a
is.
role
Every
and a
time
concept.
that match starts, you know exactly what this match is going to look like, what it's going to feel like, and what it's going to be. You know what it is. And they used to have that, and then they got rid of that. That's one of the lone titles in this company that's still, I guess the KOPW still kind of has, unique. but the TV, absolutely 100%. It feels unique, and you know exactly what you're getting. You know the purpose of that title.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of the Never Openweight title right now?
Clear.
What's the purpose of the Never Openweight title right now?
That's what I mean. It's you have to have a role, and that one has a role. But I'm saying if you wanted to axe it, you could axe it.
Yeah.
Same thing for the King of Pro Wrestling. That clearly has a role and a concept.
Well, that thing's got a year on it, which you could just say is the KOPW 2024. That's the last one, and we're not doing a 2025. Done.
Exactly.
It's gone.
Yeah. The idea is if you need to get rid of titles, you can do it very easily, and I don't see why it would take a year and a half. And this isn't unique. New Japan used to have the U30 title for wrestlers under 30. That came and went. I can name a half a dozen New Japan titles that have come and gone, since I've been a fan. So this isn't any kind of
got the third belt. Yeah, you got a lot of stuff out there. Yeah.
Titles that have been in the company that aren't there anymore, and it's like you can. They just kept adding titles, and then you turn around and you have 15 fucking titles, and it is ridiculous. So yeah, I agree with everything in point number 2, and I would be even more dramatic than they probably plan on being about it.
Number 3, I love when companies say this, reducing/eliminating outside interference. They haven't determined concrete penalties, but interference will be limited. A lot of talk and questions about whether House of Torture is the reason for this goal. The company acknowledges the fans' frustrations regarding House of Torture. The company acknowledges that pro wrestling is unique when it comes to wrestlers turning things in their favor any way that they can. Now, what I read as this is classic territory style Bill Watts coming into WCW and doing a lot of stuff that piss people off, but he's essentially saying, look, if we make this stuff special, if we take it away and make it unique, when guys interfere, it will mean something. As opposed to now with a House of Torture match, you just sit back and say, all right, here we go. Bunch of guys are going to run in. Whereas if it was unique and there wasn't a bunch of run-ins every single week and every single show and every single match or whatever, that when you have a run-in happen once every couple of weeks or months or whatever, then there is an impact to it. So this... I don't know if he's going to do this. I have no idea if this is something New Japan's going to do, but I think it's well overdue, and I love that he says that the company acknowledges the fans' frustration regarding House of Torture, because a lot of times you get that where, I think House of Torture fucking stinks, and I would get rid of him tomorrow, but then I get lectured, well, Japanese fans love them. It's like, well, okay, well, I don't know, but Hiroshi Tanahashi, the president, who is Japanese, just told me that fans are frustrated by the House of Torture being in there. So I don't know what to believe, because I'm told the House of Torture, everybody loves it and there's no problem and everybody in Japan loves it and it's great and it's super over. It's just the Western fans that don't like it or whatever. Well, I don't know. Tanahashi just said that. But again, this is one of those things of taking stuff away to then slowly bring it back is so much more impactful. So yeah, I love it. But again, I think it's ludicrous when these companies have to say, like we mentioned when AEW had to do that with the Continental Classic. Oh, there's going to be no interference. Well, then fucking no interference ever. Why is there ever interference? Why are you ever accepting interference in these matches? So when they say, oh, we're going to look into these things, it should just be a no question. If this was kayfabe or whatever, and this is real, then why are we to believe that this company is allowing any interference and anything that happens like this? So that annoys me. But I'm all for this. Please go for it. Go, please. And also get rid of House of Torture too.
The Bullet Club has been around for over a decade at this point, because I think it was Invasion Attack 2013, right? Devitt and Tom and Fale.
Yes.
So, and really, whatever, about a decade, even if my year is off but I'm pretty sure it was Invasion Attack 2013. House of Torture is probably about 5 years old at this point, 3, 4, 5 years old or whatever, at least since the pandemic. And we're 4 years removed from the pandemic. So when was the evil turn? 2020?
Yeah, I think House of Torture technically took place in 2021, technically, but yes.
So 3, 4, almost half a decade with the House of Torture at this point, right? I think it's time that New Japan could probably do a hard pivot completely away from this stuff. If you remember, Rich, in the 80s in All Japan, in the big match, Baba would almost never give you a clean finish. It would be DQs, double DQs.
Count outs.
You had a lot of guys like Brody and Abdullah, people who just wouldn't do jobs, right? And you'd get your tournaments and then you'd get your finishes. And even in some of the tournaments, you'd get non-finishes, right? But then Baba had a drastic and swift change of direction. And then all of a sudden, All Japan was 100% clean finishes. During the, the classic 90s All Japan, it would be preposterous to think that there would have been a non-finish in a Kawada Misawa match, or
Kenta Kobashi and Kawada fight to a double count out, after 32 minutes. It's like, what? That would be preposterous to think of.
So Baba completely changed course. Now, I still did draws, but a draw is not a bad finish. A draw, when used properly, is a great finish and is a legitimate finish. So a draw is a tool, as are DQs. I'm not saying DQs there's no place, but Baba went from like almost no good, like clean finishes and almost no finishes, period, to all clean finishes and all finishes. A drastic shift in the booking and presentation of the company, and both methods worked. One ran its course, and obviously his roster dictated it to some degree, right? But either way, it was a drastic change in the way he was booked. And then, they went on to have their best business years of all time. I don't know why New Japan can't do that. Why can't New Japan just decide tomorrow, we're not doing this bullshit anymore? We're having a paradigm shift. We are taking drastic measures. And for the next decade, we get nothing but clean finishes. In fact, not only can they do that, not only I would argue they should do that, because it would be such a drastic departure over the last decade, and in particular the last 5 years, that I think fans would take notice. I think fans would rally behind that. I think fans would dig the idea of two guys are going to wrestle, no one is ever going to interfere, and I'm getting a finish. Because we haven't had that in a decade. And you cannot be stagnant. You have to evolve and adjust and change. And sometimes, and we talk about this a lot with the history of WWE and Vince McMahon, the times where he was forced to change and he was pushed either by outside forces or, changes in the industry, has led to some of the greatest periods in the company. Because sometimes you just get comfortable with what you're doing and you're not challenging yourself anymore. And when you do change and you challenge yourself and you do change, fans take notice and say, oh, this is something new. This is something pretty cool. This is different. Wow, New Japan has a whole new feel to it. There is no more House of Torture. There is no more outside interference, just doesn't exist anymore. We're back to the fucking Inoki era where, okay, people are going to throw finish. You get the idea. We're back to eras where, we're getting a winner and a loser. This is, real sport. This is the king of sports. This is the king of sports. Strong style. They can do it if they want to do it, Rich.
They can do it tomorrow.
It's very easy.
They can do it tomorrow.
You can do it tomorrow. You can tell Dick Togo to hit the bricks with all
It
his
could start
ideas.
with Dominion. Dominion could be your blow-off. That lumberjack match could be the blow-off. Where
That's
you have
it. Could be the last of it.
You have all that you have the old generation. We'll talk about that match. You have the old generation fighting with the House of Torture guys. Bam, 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 bam. And after that, it's over. After that, it's
and you could tell Dick Togo and Gato and Jado and whoever else don't like it. This is how it is. Producer leave. You can do it. You can tell Gato, go home and watch your Memphis tapes all you want. We're not doing this anymore. You can tell Dick Togo, look, because he's behind a lot of this too. We're not doing this anymore. You can go back to Michinoku Pro, whatever's left of it, and slum it up if you don't like it. Hit the bricks. They could do it tomorrow. Will they have the guts to see this one through? No, they will not. I don't think they will have the guts to see this one through.
Number 4, increasing the prominence and status of New Japan Hantai. Tanahashi wants Hantai to be a desired unit for young wrestlers or wrestlers returning from excursions. So essentially, just coming back and just being a part of New Japan's, home unit and not having to join LIJ or Bullet Club or whatever right away.
Yeah, that's just the home army. And,
yeah.
This is a minor point, but Tanahashi doesn't want these guys coming back from excursion always joining a unit, right? Why has the home army, which is what Hantai is, been so kind of relegated or de-emphasized or combined with chaos, however many years ago it was, to where there's like these two giant babyface units. And I think he's right, because you look at the history of New Japan, and the home army has always been the centerpiece of the company. The home army, the Hantai, fighting either the outsiders or
fighting
the
these
evil
other units,
units.
fighting all these other units. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I do think, he makes a good point about that. And that obviously it would be a good thing to reemphasize the home army. There's no doubt about it.
Strengthening ties with Stardom. That's number 5. Stardom will be owned by New Japan Pro Wrestling as of the end of June. I don't remember if we talked about that or not. Maybe I did on a Flagship Plus. I forget. But yeah, New Japan essentially said that we're going to just completely absorb Stardom here shortly. So Stardom will be owned by New Japan Pro Wrestling as of the end of June, and look for improved operational efficiency, scheduling, crossover events, and Stardom on New Japan events very soon.
Okay. I don't really have a hot take on that. They're under the same corporate umbrella. It would make sense to work together and help each other out.
Number 6, strengthening ties with All Elite Wrestling. Despite what I hear constantly from wrestling fans that are fans of New Japan Pro Wrestling and hate AEW, quote, New Japan is happy with their relationship with AEW. Quote, there is the perception that New Japan is treated as a sub-brand or is looked down on by AEW. Some of that perception of New Japan being behind comes from the economics at the moment, but the truth of the matter is AEW's strengths and New Japan's strengths are different. From development of talent from scratch to historical and traditional perspective, there's a lot New Japan can offer that AEW cannot. So there's a lot that we can do together, and while much of it isn't something we can discuss right now, there's a lot we will do. But the idea that New Japan is inferior partner is not correct. We are absolutely on even footing, and that's something we'll prove in the near future.
Yeah, this reads a lot like the Iraqi general saying, "There's nothing. What's the meme?"
Yeah,
but
there's nothing to see here.
Yeah,
bombs are going off behind him, and there's a broken down building and rubble.
The scene from Naked Gun where Drebin's like, "Move along. There's nothing to see here," and there's rockets going off and bombs.
Right.
But look, a New Japan fan sees not only Will Ospreay and Kazuchika Okada working for AEW now, but they see Jay White working for AEW. They see Juice Robinson working for AEW. You go right down the line, okay? It just so happens that right now, AEW is the one that's in the position of power. In a lot of ways, this is New Japan getting a little taste of their own medicine, because in a lot of their previous relationships with promotions, they were the promotion in power. If you're going to be a New Japan fan, you need to be consistent, because New Japan was working with DDT a decade ago, and Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega ended up working for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Okay. This is just how these things go, and they're cyclical, and the promotion in the higher ground that's doing better is always the promotion that has the power in these scenarios. And sometimes you got to eat a little shit from them. I mean, that, and that's just how it is. And when AEW started, New Japan was the promotion that was in the position of power, and they wouldn't even work with AEW because they had the power to do so. But, at the end of the day, I feel like in the case of Ospreay and Okada, Ospreay for sure was not going to spend his entire career in New Japan. I think we could all agree on that. And I think Okada just doesn't have that Tanahashi Naito mindset. If it wasn't AEW, it would have been WWE. I firmly believe that. I think both of those guys, if it weren't AEW, it would eventually have been WWE. And then you never have any access to them. If you want to look at silver linings, you got access to both of those guys. And I know there's a cool-off period, and it's a little cold with Okada. And I know Ospreay doesn't want to go right back to New Japan, right? But eventually, Will Ospreay is going to start working New Japan shows again. Eventually, I would bet my life Kazuchika Okada works New Japan shows again while with AEW. And he'll probably end up back there eventually at some point in his career. So I think some of the New Japan fans, where I completely understand where they're coming from in terms of the dynamics of the relationship. I mean, look, again, New Japan was in AEW's position many, many times historically.
Yeah.
Many, many times historically, even outside of the DDT example that I just provided, where, not only did they take DDT's two biggest stars, okay, there were scenarios where Tanahashi himself would go to DDT shows and completely eat up Hiroshima. Go watch the match. He went to DDT and completely ate up and embarrassed Harashima, who, was the biggest star left after they took their other two. So it's like, New Japan, I don't know. I just feel like this is wrestling, and this is what
when you're in a
always
position of
promotion.
power and you're above others, that's just kind of
That's how it goes.
It's kind of how it goes.
That's and New Japan will be in that position again with somebody, and so it goes. Okay. They just had Dragon Dia come into a Super Junior and fucking lose in 4 minutes every night. Okay,
we talked about with Yuma Anzai. Yuji Nagata was sent there to get that guy to say, "Hey, motherfucker, come with me and ditch these guys." Like, we know what the score was. It didn't work, but we know what the fucking score was. There was a reason Yuji Nagata was in All Japan mentoring Yuma Anzai or whatever, was to say, "Hey, you want to come with me? We got this over here. You can come and do this." It didn't work, but that was the goal. They're still doing it. I don't know what to tell you, man. That's kind of what the game is.
Thing. Not like, this idea that it's completely one-sided. Who's the IWGP champion? I mean, what are we doing here? It's,
well, they'll tell you that's bad, so I don't know what to tell you there. But
okay, all right, okay. You don't have to like the matches. That's not what I'm talking about. That has nothing to do with what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, New Japan ran a series of shows in America the first half of this year. And Tony Khan gave them Jon Moxley to work on top on those shows. So don't tell me they're not getting anything out of this. It's nonsense. It's nonsense that they're not getting anything out of this. Of course, the scales are tipped to AEW's favor for what we just talked about the last 5 minutes. But this is not some completely one-sided thing. Jon Moxley is IWGP champion because New Japan wants him to be, and they think that's beneficial to them. So if you don't like Moxley as champion, don't get mad at Tony Khan. Get mad at New Japan. Tony Khan didn't make them put their title on him. Believe me, Tony Khan would rather have Jon Moxley around every week. Believe me. But he's being a good partner, and okay, you guys want belt up Moxley, I can do without him on. Then you work out the dates and you figure it out, and here we are. And now Moxley's IWGP champion. And he's missing Dynamite every other week. And he's drawing houses in America, theoretically, as competition to Tony Khan on top for another company. And he's allowing that. So you want to sit there and tell me it's completely one-sided and Tony Khan is just completely taking advantage? When Jon Moxley's New Japan shows are outdrawing half of AEW shows? Tony Khan's a saint in this scenario. What are we doing? You think Vince McMahon would ever allow that? Oh, come on. What are we doing here?
And then people will point to the current NXT TNA relationship and say, "Oh, well, by the way, they're going to give TNA Brooks Jensen." You know what I mean? NXT they're going to say, "Hey, can we grab Jordan Grace? You guys can have Brooke Jensen for a week. There you go. Appreciate that. Thanks for Jordan Grace." Like that's kind of what's going to happen there, by the way, guys. But anyway.
Yeah, so it's like, look, if you want to have I loved the Jon Moxley IWGP title run? No, hasn't been good. The Uemura match was all right. Everything else has been, whatever. But, from a business standpoint, New Japan wanted this, and Tony Khan granted it to them. And Tony Khan sent Bryan Danielson to the Tokyo Dome. Okay, he didn't send Private Party. So I don't get this idea that it's like this, massively one-sided situation. It's not. The scales are tipped to the promotion that is in the position of power. There's no doubt about it. But that's just how these things go, historically. No matter who is involved. And in New Japan, if they strengthen themselves to the point where they feel like they don't need AEW's help anymore, then they'll tell them to kiss off. And that day will come. That day will come. So, anyway, the statement, though, read as, "We have to address this because it's the perception and everything is great and there's nothing to see here." But at the same time, New Japan probably is happy with the arrangement because they feel like they're getting something out of it. Now, I feel like both sides could get more out of it. I think New Japan wrestlers should absolutely be on excursion to AEW. And I feel like AEW wrestlers young wrestlers should absolutely be on excursion in Japan. I know we've seen some tours with, what's the tag team that hangs out with Brian Cage? I always forget the
Gates of Agony
went over there for World Tag League.
Bishop, Khan, and the other dude. Yeah,
we need more than just tours. We need, whoever I'm just picking a name. Okay, we're sending Action Andretti to New Japan for a year. He's gonna live in the dojo. He's gonna train in the dojo. He's gonna learn a new style. He's gonna get beat like a drum. Okay, they need to be doing more things like that with each other, I think.
Number 7, I have nothing to offer here. He says, improving the live fan experience, ideas, different pricing tiers, female-only seating sections, special food menus, consider number of people in box. Great.
Or I've never been to a New Japan show in Japan, so
Right.
I don't know. I've only been to New Japan shows in America. I can't speak on it, but sure.
Yeah.
Why not prove things?
Yeah,
food?
I'm fine with I've gone to some New Japan shows. I'm fine with the hot dogs and nachos that I acquire at insert random American venue that I go to, so...
The last New Japan show I went to,
you got a spread. Yeah, you had a whole spread, right?
Listen, no, and no bullshit. It was called the Flagship Suite. So how can I complain? We were in the literal Flagship Suite at the last New Japan show I attended. So, I can't complain about my experience. Treated me very well.
Improving New Japan World apologizes for the clunky transition. Archives should be complete by the end of the year. Live viewing has been fixed/improved.
Okay, yeah. New Japan World is a fucking disaster. Okay, it's a fucking disaster, and it's unacceptable. The archives are gone. We're paying, in theory, the same 1,000 yen or 999 yen, whatever their tagline is. I think it's 900, and we're getting way less. And it is clunky, and the archive is a fucking joke. They used to have a massive archive, and and that's just gone. There's now less devices that you can that you can view the app on. For me, I'm pretty much restricted at this point to watching New Japan World on my laptop. And you know me, I don't like watching wrestling on my laptop. In fact, I hate it. Okay? I spend a lot of money on 70-inch TVs. I want to watch my wrestling on my TVs. Okay? And it's harder to do that. And I don't want to hear from the chat about casting or I know how to do it. But before, I didn't have to jump through hoops and find a different way. I just had the fucking app because the app was more accessible on all devices and all operating systems, and now it isn't. And that's annoying to me. And I don't want to jump through hoops. So you know what I'm doing? I'm watching less New Japan because I'm annoyed I got to watch it on my laptop. They've gone completely backwards with New Japan World in every way. And it is frustrating, and it is annoying.
Yeah, so, I don't mind the chapters. I know some people hate the chapters. I don't mind the chapters. I'm kind of okay with the chapters for the most part, but the archives not being there and some other things have definitely annoyed me with New Japan World. So it has not been a very good transition. Like you said, we're paying the same and receiving less. And anytime you do that definitely does not don't love that. Also, the website, which is not mentioned by Hiroshi Tanahashi, their website still doesn't work. It's been a month now.
Again, an absolute disaster. You would think a company like Bushiroad could just hire somebody to take 2 weeks and fucking fix it and get it back up.
You would think, but
I don't understand. Get a fucking computer expert in there, someone who does it for a living, explain to them what happened, say, get this website up and running, money's no object, and just pay the fucking guy. It's a drop. This isn't an indie company operating off of someone's fucking hobby budget. This is Bushiroad, a multi-million-dollar fucking operation. Hire somebody to fix the fucking website. What are we doing? This is Mickey Mouse bullshit. It's ridiculous. Doesn't make sense. Just get it done. How is this acceptable? I've never worked for a company, and I never have worked for a company the size of Bushiroad that would ever allow this. Rich, have you ever worked for a company that would allow this?
No. For the website to be down this long, no. Definitely not.
For fuck's sake, get it fixed.
A day or two, a week. Yeah, that's one thing. But no, for this long, this is pretty. It's pretty wild. It just speaks to they don't care or they don't have the. I don't know what it is, but it comes across pretty damn rinky dink. And yeah, the thing
It's so small time. It's a joke.
Well, what's weird
come
is
on.
like they made a post on May. It was like early May, and they said the issues of New Japan World will be the New Japan website will be solved and corrected in the next 2 to 3 days or whatever. And that post for a while there was the last post that you saw on the website, even though we were already into June or whatever. So now that's gone. That I think that post is either gone or been buried or something. So I don't know what's going on, but it's still it doesn't work. If you want to get news, it sends you to a Medium website, news.newjapan1972.com. So it's just it's a disaster.
I mean, you're doing Forbidden Door. You're doing all these American shows that are drawn pretty well. You think they'd want their English website up and operational.
You would think yeah.
They'd want
a lot of
better
outreach.
New Japan World where fans might say, hey, I have more of a hunger for this New Japan product. I just got home from a show. I saw it on AEW television. I watched Forbidden Door. I watched whatever the other what was the pay-per-view in Seattle? Fucking
Wrestle
AEW
Dream.
fucking Wet Dream or whatever it's called.
Wrestle Dream,
I want
that's
more
the name
New
of it.
Japan. I want more New Japan. I want to order New Japan World. And then you order it and there's no fucking archives. The archives are all House of Torture matches. It's ridiculous. They're leaving money on the table.
Absolutely. Yeah, they have such
I
a
didn't
great.
realize this segment would make me so mad. What's next?
9, improved treatment of personal information, aka sorry that we got that USB drive stolen / lost that had all of your data on it. So
I mean, this joke writes itself. I mean, you have the fucking USB drive story where everyone's personal information is sitting in some crook's hands somewhere in fucking Tokyo in fucking Roppongi
Shibuya,
They got-
Roppongi.
Yeah.
Hanging out
Yeah.
with hanging out with Rocky, and
Someone's in an alleyway in Roppongi with a cloak and with a fucking coat on with the fucking with the collar popped up saying, "Hey, I got this USB drive of 8% of the Japanese population," and they're fucking selling the information. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's all on one USB drive, everything, and you lose it, and now everything's fucked. I mean, how does this again? This is Mickey Mouse.
this
bullshit.
is Mickey Mouse bullshit
How
for a
can
company
this
that's owned by Bushi, owned by a very large company, and should not be doing this Mickey Mouse bullshit. So
Some guy in Bipu selling the fucking hard drive to the black to the black market, to the dark web.
and the New Japan sponsorships. Thank you to sponsors. That's all he said. So great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, bye.
All right, fantastic.
So there you go. That is Hiroshi Tanahashi's 10-point plan. We're going to get younger. Title belts are going to be less of a disaster. Not as much interference. More stardom. More New Japan Army. Strengthening ties with AEW. Improve the live fan experience. Improve New Japan World. Not have USB drives with all of your data on it stolen. And thank you, sponsors, for being sponsors. That's what we got from
You think this is good though that they're at least listening to fans and at minimum giving it lip service?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, at minimum, it's lip service. I do think they're genuine about some of this stuff. So, we'll see. I tell you what, talked a little bit how they're drawing in America. They're drawing better than people think in Japan. I mean, obviously they're not even close to all the way back, but the Super Junior Tour, I saw some stats put out by Chris Charlton, who obviously works for the company, but stats are stats. They did run more shows, which led to drawing more fans. And I think the average attendance for the shows was only down like a couple dozen fans or something like that for the Super Junior Tour. So, I mean, they're drawing better than I think the perception might be. And we have talked about that over the last couple of months, particularly the American shows, which continue to shock me how well those shows are drawing. But it's just going to take some work to get all the way back, and maybe they will implement some things. And this was clearly an attempt to speak to the disenfranchised Japanese fans, and at minimum, they're giving them some lip service, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And we'll see how much of this actually gets put into play.
Let's talk briefly about Dominion here. We got a lot else to get to. So, New Japan Dominion, 6-9 in Osaka Joe Hall. Obviously, the main event is going to be the Best of the Super Junior 31 final. We were wrong.
Yeah, I think we should do the Super Junior show before and then talk about that.
Oh, that's
set
true.
up a lot.
Yeah, let's do that.
So let's talk about the show. Now I'll go through the undercard quickly because you just saw the 2 Super Junior semifinals, right?
Correct. Yeah, I did not watch the undercard.
Right, so I've got some quick thoughts on the other stuff because actually this was a very This drew 1,500 fans to Cork and Hall. And these fans were hot, and this was a really hot show. And I was expecting to just be bored to death until I got to the two Best of Super Junior semis. But this was a really interesting show, and it was high energy, and the fans were super into everything, and it felt hot. The opener had Blake Christian, Hayata, and Ninja Mac over Kevin Knight, Kushida, and Shoma Kato, who is one of the young boys. This was the Kevin Knight show. He was just fucking bananas in this match. He's so
really good.
And
he's gotten good. He's gotten really, really, really good. And New Japan's got to pounce on this, I think.
He has just been super impressive. And I'm going to blow through the rest of these matches because I got to let the dog out. And then you could talk about the semifinal matches first. But yeah, this was the Kevin Knight show. He looked phenomenal. Hayata scores the submission win over, Shoma Kato was there to take the fall. But, Kushida, I thought he had a good tour. He wasn't even supposed to be on the tour. He was an injury replacement. It's just crazy how far down the ladder he has slid in the New Japan. They have no interest in using him or booking him. And, and Kevin Knight, not a contracted guy, but man, that might be a whiff on their part because he looks fucking great. I mean, he looks like a star in the making, and he looked incredible in this match. And Cage Match has this at 4.56. I almost went notebook on this. I mean, this was a great open.
Okay.
I mean, Blake Christian looked great. Ninja Mac looked great. The crowd was hot. I don't know what the fuck Cage Match is talking about. This was not a below average match. This match ruled. In fact, I thought it was the third best match on the show, and behind the two, Super Junior matches, obviously.
Yeah, take care of that dog. I can talk about the semifinals and give you a minute or two. So,
all right, is that very distracting? I'll let her out.
No. If it's distracting to you, I feel like it's distracting to you more than it's distracting to me. So,
nah, I'm okay. I'm just gonna blow through the rest of this. So, TMDK,
all right, go for it. Yeah,
I don't want to. It's silly. I don't want to. Let's just get through these matches. So, TMDK defeats the War Dogs and Gato. This was a flash pin. Connors was pinned in seconds by Fujita with an inside cradle or whatever it was, and then the rest was just TMDK beating the shit out of the War Dogs and putting them in a triple submission and setting up Kosei Fujita and Robbie Eagles challenging for the junior titles. They stole the title belts and held them up, and the crowd was super into all of this, watching the War Dogs eat ass and TMDK beat them quickly and then dominate them in the ensuing brawl. So this was a lot of fun. It really was a lot of fun. Okan and Jeff Cobb defeat Taka Michinoku and Yuya Uemura. Taka was there to eat the fall. He was super entertaining in this. The Okan and Yuya Uemura stuff was not interesting at all. And they're going to have the King of Pro Wrestling match at the pay-per-view. Taka tagged in to go after Jeff Cobb, and they did a comedy spot where he went to give him the Michinoku driver, but obviously he couldn't lift to Jeff Cobb, which was, and the whole crowd laughed. And then Jeff Cobb hit him with the what's he called? The reverse power slam. Tour of the Islands, I think.
Tour of the
so
Islands.
He hit him with the Tour of the Islands and got the pin. And Taka's just a lot of fun. He's never going to win. He's had a really good career when you really think about it. I mean, from the early days with Michinoku Pro, and then he comes over with Great Sasuke and outshines him, really.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up getting the job with WWE instead of Sasuke and has the nice run there.
Yeah, they wanted Sasuke, and Sasuke didn't impress them, and he was kind of a dickhead, and they were like, fuck this guy, let's go with Taka instead. And
hire the other guy.
Had a run there until early 2001, I think he hung around. Yeah,
and then obviously New Japan over the years, he had to leave for a little while with the controversy, because Japan, that culture takes those things a little different than the American culture, but he's back, and and whether it's been Just Tap Out, or what was his other promotion before Just Tap Out? Kaientai Dojo. No matter whatever little promotion that he's run over the years, he always has those super entertaining matches where he stretches his young boys. And he's trained a lot of good wrestlers that have come out of his promotions over the last decade or so. He's had a nice career, Taka Michinoku, and he's a pro who knows what he's doing and knows how to perform in whatever role he's in and get over in whatever role he's in. And he was very entertaining here with Jeff Cobb. Next up was LIJ defeating Tanahashi, Toru Yano, Oleg Boltin, and Dragon Dia. And it was Toru Yano taking the fall from I don't know. I guess it's Yota Tsuji pinned Toru Yano. Oleg Boltin, I think he's a guy. Rich.
Okay. I'm not there yet, but I could see it. I see it, but I'm not there yet.
There's something. I mean, I'd put him in the G1 this year. I wouldn't have him win a match, but I'd have that motherfucker in the G1 this year. You know, he'd go 0-9 or whatever they're going to do. They're probably going to have 19 blocks again with 4 guys. Who the fuck knows what they're going to do? But, you know, he'd go 0 whatever. But, he's a hoss. You know, when you finally gimmick him up and give him some person, I believe in Oleg Boltin. I've been a fan of him from the start. I mean, he's a throwback. He's something the company lacks outside of Jeff Cobb. You know what I mean? So, very impressed with Oleg Boltin. And that was kind of my takeaway there. And Yota Tsuji scoring the fall, which he should. Because that guy's going to be a future star. Shingo and Tetsuya Naito over Callum Newman and Hanare. Obviously, Shingo is facing Hanare for the Never title, so that was kind of a prelude of that. There was a lot of this on this show. Okan on the opposite side of Uemura and, the junior title challenge and the TMDK match and all of that. So that's what this was, and there wasn't much to it. It was fine. It was a good match. Is Naito wrestling Callum Newman? He's wrestling Callum Newman.
Yes.
He's wrestling him.
At Dominion. At Dominion.
Yeah, so this was a double prelude, and Newman is starting to beef up. He's putting on some weight.
He's got that Will Ospreay thing.
Path.
Yeah, he's got that Ospreay thing where it's like learn how to work, learn how to fly, and then put on a couple pounds, and that'll get you far.
Yeah, and I think New Japan likes him, and he's a legitimate prospect, and I don't think he's got the Will Ospreay upside. That's a once in a generation thing.
That's a non-comp. But, you can't comp anybody to Will, I don't think, at this point.
But fairly or unfairly, he's going to get compared to him. But yeah, he's on a good path. I think he's done good work since he's got there. And, he feels like a part of, he felt like this weird guy from Rev Pro for a while, but now he feels like part of the roster, and it'll be an interesting match with Naito. And then Moxley's mystery partners were the third generation guys. He did a promo on the screen that was translated for the fans. And then the third generation guys came out to a monster pop. Everything was over on this show. The fans were really into this show. And then they beat House of Torture. And, so those are going to be his lumberjacks. Tenzan, Tiger Mask, Togi Makabe, obviously Shooter, Yuji Nagata. It's kind of funny, though, because it's like, my guys, my lumberjacks, my guy are all of these third generation guys that House of Torture has been beating for the last 4 years. Like, it's kind of weird from that standpoint because these guys never win. But, it got over with the fans. That's what matters. It's a bunch of dudes that almost never get put in important matches or big spots anymore. So from that standpoint, I think fans are excited about that. And, I guess we'll talk about the lumberjack match later. Rich, the floor is yours for Taiji Ishimori versus TJP. I am going to deal with my eyeless dog, and I will be back.
Absolutely. All right. So you take a little bit of a minute there, Joe. But both these semifinals I thought were awesome. I really, really enjoyed both of these matches. Start with Taiji Ishimori and TJP. Now, talking, total tournament wise, I thought TJP had a phenomenal tournament. I everything that I saw of his, and I don't know if I saw every best. I did not see every best of the Super Juniors match, but I saw a lot. I saw a lot of this tournament, and TJP was one of my favorite guys in the entire tournament. I thought he was great. I thought his work was great. I thought he just owned those buildings and understood his character and understood how to wrestle and understood how to kind of adapt his style to who he was facing on that given day or whatever. And he was able to do that throughout the entire tournament. So I was really, really impressed by TJP. Now, Taiji Ishimori, I'm hit or miss on, usually. And rightfully so. Taiji Ishimori is one of those guys that over the years has kind of, in high-profile moments, you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes you get a really, really, really great match, and you're like, fuck, man, Taiji Ishimori's great. Why is this guy not great all the time? And the reason he's not great all the time is because you see all these matches sometimes where he's just loafing or doesn't really care or whatever it is, or just the wrong style of match, and it just doesn't quite work. It just doesn't quite click. Not in this case. Not in this case at all. This is a big-time spot for Taiji Ishimori, and he delivered. And him and TJP, I love that this match didn't go too long. They're doing the 30-minute time limit, I believe, on both these semifinals, which helped. And, they were able to do a really, really, really fun, really good back-and-forth match in under 20 minutes, just under 19 minutes, fast-paced, good work throughout, smart work throughout. Two brilliant pro wrestlers. And it's just a matter of, are these guys going to give full effort? And they absolutely did. And TJP, I think, just added to his, he's done, obviously, after this match. But I think he added to his resume here in this Best of the Super Juniors. And May, I don't know. I don't know if he's my favorite guy in this year's Best of the Super Juniors, but he's probably not far off. If he's not my favorite, he might be my second. Really, really enjoyed. And then, yeah, Taiji Ishimori cared. And that's always what it is. You can tell when this guy cares, and you can tell when this guy wants to wrestle in a big spot and wants to deliver and wants it to matter and wants it to be a big deal. And this is what he was here. It is just, you have, mat wrestling that he was great at, as well as TJP, big slugfest at a certain point where they were just dropping bombs on each other and stuff, all done, again, with a good amount of speed and fast-paced, smartly worked, 19 minutes, didn't overstay its welcome, didn't overdo it with the kickouts, didn't really overdo anything. Like, I love this, man. I'm like 4.25, 4.5 with this thing easily. I thought great pro wrestling from two all-time pros that when they're in there and when it clicks, you see it's like, oh yeah, these dudes are fucking phenomenal wrestlers. And I love this match.
Yeah, look, TJP, I think he's just so super talented. I mean, he's just a great pro wrestler who can do any style.
I said he might be my while you're away. I said he might be my favorite guy in this entire tournament, or at the worst, my second or third favorite guy in this entire tournament. He's
up there.
Great.
I mean, he's just so good. And Taiji Ishimori is a guy who, over the last few years, I've definitely grown tired of, but he was good here. And I think the theme of both of these matches was these weren't traditional flippy-do junior style matches. Like, I think the tournament last year when we had Wato and Teton and people like that, I thought those matches were more dynamic last year, as the tournament wound down, and Wato and Teton had such great tournaments. That was last year and not 2 years ago, right? Yeah, it was last year.
Yeah. I think it was last year.
He was at the commentary table this year because he's injured. But that was more dynamic. These matches on this night were like wrestling fan. These were wrestling matches for wrestling fans.
This one was very mat based, very very.
So was the other one?
Yeah, and then the other one was just like a cell match. It was like, can Dookie survive and with his leg being thrashed and his arms being thrashed and his body being thrashed by El Desperado.
And yet he kept catching Despy in the choke, and it's like, was Despy gonna choke? But yeah, I don't want to jump too far ahead. But yeah, Ishimori, for someone who I haven't been interested in years, really. And it's interesting because the first half of his career, I loved that guy. Whether it was Dragon Door, where they were going to push him as the ace, and then later on in Noah, where he was part of that classic era of the Noah Juniors, and in the early days when he came in as the Bone Soldier here, and then he kind of, how old is he now? He's got to be in his 40s. I mean, he's 41.
I think we looked it up. Is it 41?
He's 41. He's got some wear and tear. He's working it. But this match, was it's just an excellent technical style match. And
he cared and he tried. And that's one of the big things with Taiji Ishimori is you can tell very obviously when he doesn't care or when he's not trying. And in this match, he cared and he tried, and these are the results. Because he's a phenomenal pro wrestler. And he can do this all the time if he wants to. He just chooses not to a lot of times. Not in this case. Not in this match.
Yeah. So, I really enjoyed both of these matches. I thought were in that same range where you said, 4.25, somewhere in that neighborhood. And just a real different style of Super Junior match. I just wrote a piece for Match of the Week where I talked about, everyone talks about Misawa and Kawada, right? But what's the second best match to ever take place on that iconic date, right? So I dug up all of the best matches that ever took place on that date other than Misawa Kawada. One of the ones that came up was the Will Ospreay Kushida Best of the Super Junior final. There was a lot of Super Junior matches that came up because Super Junior is this time of year, right? So, and I remember that's one of the greatest Super Junior matches of all time, but it was so different than these two matches, like so dynamic, Will Ospreay and Kushida. And same thing last year with Wato and Teton, just a great match, much more dynamic. These were, meat and potatoes, almost art house wrestling in a way is the best way I can describe both of these matches, with guys and the perfect people to work that kind of match. I don't know if you would want Kevin Knight working this kind of match, is my point. You don't want Ninja Mac.
Right. That's not accentuating those guys' positives.
Exactly. And these four guys were almost perfect for this. And I thought all four of them really stuck the landing. So As far as Despy and Doki, kind of talked about it already. We nailed the story already. You know, it was just this match where they're and Doki just desperately trying to choke out Despy, and Despy with his hair all over the place and just fighting off that choke over and over and over, and just, you know, so much fight and emotion involved in that match. And I believe Doki was Despy's injury replacement, and that's how he got into the company to begin with. You know, like whatever that Super Junior like 5 years ago. So
yeah, Despy had a broken jaw or something like that. I forget what it was, but yeah, Dookie came in to kind of, you know, relieve him in that sense.
Brought in by Despy to replace him, you know, and you know, so that there's that depth of the story and everything to go along with it too. And Despy advances, and as you kind of alluded to before, we get this final that's going to headline Dominion that I don't think any of us saw coming. But what'd you think of I get any more thoughts on Despy?
No, I just thought great pro wrestling and very drama-based pro wrestling without having to do near falls. I think so often now in today's wrestling,
good point,
the only way that wrestlers know how to tell dramatic stories are, I'm going to hit my move and my finisher on you and you're going to kick out. And then you're going to hit your finisher on me and then I'm going to kick out. And that's the drama. This one didn't need all that. This was just the drama of Dookie, can he survive? And El Desperado, can he not get put in a Doki Choki? You know what I mean? Is essentially what these guys did for like 10 minutes straight. Was just like, that was the drama of, you know, Dookie is on his last legs, but he keeps finding a way. He keeps finding a way. And they didn't have to resort to a bunch of kickouts and a bunch of, you know, 1-2, no, 1-2, no, 1-2. It's the easiest trope in wrestling today. And they didn't do it. They just pried on the emotion of, you know, one guy has to survive and one guy is desperate to win. Who's gonna, you know, something has to happen. Something has to come to a head here. And eventually it was, you know, Desperado finally putting Dookie away and earning a spot in this Best of the Super Juniors, where he'll face, you know, a rival as well in Taiji Ishimori, which, by the way, if you go to voicesofwrestling.com right now, Jay Michael wrote a very, very detailed piece about the rivalry between Taiji Ishimori and El Desperado. Definitely suggests checking that out, as that's going to do a better job of previewing.
You won't get a deep dive on the history of that match. I mean, and that guy's such a good writer, and he, you know, he's locked in when it comes to Despy, and he's locked in when it comes to the backstory on this match. Just incredible stuff, you know. And it really is a shame that, you know, wrestling media overall is in the place it's in, and something like a piece like that has to be such a niche thing that, you know, doesn't make that guy millions of dollars. I mean, he's such a good writer, and he you know, gets the story across so well. And I really encourage everyone who's going to watch the match to go read that. For sure.
Yeah, for sure. You should definitely do that. Instead of Jay Michael making $1 million for writing a great piece, we have horrible headlines that are written because Will Ospreay's going to have a week off, and they're going to write that he's taking a sabbatical, and then everyone's going to go, "Oh my God, these week," you know, that's where we're at instead with pro wrestling media, is instead of Jay Michael writing, you know, a 10,000 word piece about the history of this rivalry and why El Desperado wears a certain mask on a certain moment and backstage comments and stuff. We have, you know, sensationalist headline writers writing bullshit headlines that cause a bunch of people to lose their minds when they say, a guy's taking a week off. A guy got a week off, and they wrote a sabbatical, and that caused a bunch of people to piss their pants for
Well, Ringside News, as we know, is just a garbage site. It's just a complete waste and garbage site. But they're also part of the grift. Mm-hmm. They're a part of the anti-AEW grift. And in fact, I can give you an anecdote that someone passed along to me this week that kind of supports that, in that I don't even know if you're aware of this story, Rich, but you know, you're familiar with Steve Fall.
Yes.
Formerly of NBC Boston. He now has his own site, 10 Count Media. And Steve Fall was the person who subcontracted Lucas Sharpio to the Backlash press conference. When that whole thing went down, Sharpio was there on behalf of 10 Count Media. I still don't think Steve Fall to this day has publicly backed Lucas Sharpio and what happened to him at that press conference, which is incredibly sleazy. I mean, we came to Sharpio's defense, Dave Meltzer, the Post, WrestleNomics, you know, and there were plenty of other people who were willing to throw Sharpio under the bus, and I'll never forget them. But, you know, Steve Fall was the person who employed Lucas to go to that presser and never publicly supported him or gave him a public pat on the back or a public vote of confidence during that whole ordeal. at least not on Twitter and not publicly to my knowledge. But that to tell you all you need to know about Steve Fall. But in addition, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Double or Nothing weekend in Vegas, Steve Fall was there working and conducting interviews for a couple of days and doing all the things that these people do when they go out to these events. And then he tweeted that he was representing Ringside News. Okay. The AEW talent got a whiff of that and immediately went to PR and said, get this guy out of here, because no one wants anything to do with Ringside News, because it's the absolute dregs of the wrestling media. It's the worst site. Okay. The disingenuous stories and headlines, it's a garbage site. So he was told by AWPR that if any of his work that weekend got posted on any of Ringside News's outlets, whether the website, the Twitter, whatever, Steve Fall would be banned from AEW events forever. So good for AEW. Good for AEW. Good for their PR team. Shame on Steve Fall, who still hasn't publicly backed Lucas Sharpio, who he paid to be there, and let Lucas fall on the sword and never supported the kid. And shame on him for working for Ringside News. I mean, Steve Fall's a clown. Can we just call it like it is? He's a clown. Ringside News is a bunch of clowns. And good on AEW PR for getting him out of there once they found out he was there on behalf of Ringside News of all places. Because Ringside News is banned from AEW events. And rightfully so. They don't belong anywhere. Okay? And they're the ones who put out that misleading Ospreay headline, making it because they want to make it look like Will Ospreay is lazy because Papa Paul called him lazy. So Will Ospreay's on a sabbatical. He was taking taking 1 week off of Dynamite.
Next time I have to miss an episode of the Flagship, or you have to, I'm going to say Joe is on sabbatical, and then you'll just come back next week. I regret to inform all of you, Joe is on sabbatical, and it will be quite some time until he returns, and then you're just back next week.
I mean, the guy took 1 week off of Dynamite.
All week off. It's so ridiculous.
But this is the game that these sites play.
Mm-hmm.
This is the game that they play. Okay? They would never, ever, ever put that story up. They wouldn't even run that story, but they definitely wouldn't frame it that way if Cody took a week off, which I'm sure he has at some point. Roman Reigns never comes to work.
That's
Where's
a sabbatical.
His article about how
man's on
lazy
sabbaticals.
He is?
Let me tell you, if you're looking for sabbaticals, Roman Reigns goes on sabbaticals for sure.
So anyway, you wrote the story behind the paywall.
Yeah, I guess that's a good time to plug that. So,
plug it.
Yeah, this week on the on flagshippatreon.com, I wrote an article called "Did PJ Polacco really wrestle 30 shows in 30 days in Germany?" Because of this fucking horrific horseshit clickbait garbage headline that Ringside News posted. That was, a Fightful Select report that was, we were told Will Ospreay has the week off after working Double or Nothing. He's expected to return next week. That was the report from Fightful. Ringside News said Will Ospreay taking a sabbatical or whatever. So then you had, because of course, former pro wrestler Justin Credible, I guess he's still an active wrestler, Justin Credible / Aldo Montoya / PJ Polacco quote tweeted saying, quote, "Wow, I once did 30 shows and 30 days in Germany alone for the WWE. You wrestle literally a couple times a month. Get over yourself." So I decided to crack the old knuckles and say, well, sir, Aldo Montoya, Portuguese Man of War, did you wrestle 30 times in 30 days? In fact, no, Joe, he did not wrestle 30 times in 30 days in Germany. If you combined all of his matches that he's ever had in Germany, it's only 23. Also, then I said, wait, hold on a minute. Well, PJ, if you're the super worker, whatever, let me see how many more matches you had than Will Ospreay. Well, it turns out that PJ Polacco does have more matches than Will Ospreay has in his career. The former Justin Credible has 1,130 career matches across 32 years in the business. Will Ospreay has 1,065 in 18 fewer years than Justin Credible. So, yes. Numerous other data points that I bring up as well. So it's half kind of a dunk on Justin Credible for this really stupid tweet and just outwardly lying about how many times he wrestled in Germany for the WWE or whatever. And then also about how clickbait aggregation is just absolute shit. So there you go. That is up there at flagshippatreon.com. Yeah. So That is a written piece. A few other things as well that we did this week. You had your Thursday Dynamite review, obviously, like you do every single week for AEW Dynamite. I did a review of the Who Killed WCW, the new Vice docuseries on the death of WCW. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do all four episodes because episode 1 was encouraging. I was okay with it. There's still some bullshit in there, and that's what we're kind of doing here is we're going to, call out people on their bullshit, tell you what the real story was. But that's what we're going to do it for our review. So I'm going to do that every single week, probably the day after it airs on Vice TV. But episode 1 is up. That's available on the trial tier as well. So if you are not subscribed to flagshippatreon.com and you're like, I'm not sure, $1 gets you the Who Killed WCW episode. And if you like what you hear, you get all future episodes of that on the $5 tier or upgrade to that $10 tier if you want. But that was up there as well, Who Killed WCW episode 1. And then, like you said, a really, really great match of the week this week, talking about a Joshi match that may have been the second best match on June 3rd, 1993, as the best match on June 3rd of all time probably was June 3rd, 1994, which I also did a written piece about that as well, which was obviously the iconic match between Misawa and Kawada from June 3rd, 1994. So a big piece looking at that, which happened obviously 30 years ago.
Yeah, so then my match of the week takes a look at at all the other great matches that have taken place on that date of June 3rd. And there was way more than I thought. You had that Kushida Will Ospreay match, Young Bucks, Lucha Brothers in the cage in AEW, the Dr. Wagner Jr., Koji Kanemoto Super Junior match, which is a legendary Super Junior match in its own right. And then the match I ultimately chose for match of the week, which was Aja Kong and Bull Nakano versus Akira Hokuto and Kyoko Inoue, which is 4 of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time. 4 of the greatest wrestlers of all time, period, in one tag match, which was a match I had never seen, which is why I chose it ultimately for the match of the week. And I did a really nice write-up on the 17 greatest matches to ever take place on 6-3. And then, obviously the match I chose was the match from All Japan Women. But there's a write-up behind the paywall on that legendary date in wrestling history. And then Rich did all kinds of shit that he's already plugged. The Who Killed WCW series, the Aldo Montoya 30 Days in Germany takedown, the write-up you did on Kawada and Misawa. So there's a new Flagship Plus that went up this week. I actually put 2 out within a span of 2 or 3 days there. But yeah, there's a couple new Flagship Pluses out there. So, and pretty much a lot of what we're talking about here is on the $5 tier. Some of it's on the 10. The written pieces are on the 10, but the audio and the match of the week and things like that, you can get on the $5 tier. And of course, there is going to be an AEW pay-per-view this month. So it's a good time to either get back on the $10 tier or sub for $10. You get that instant reaction live for
Forbidden Door.
Forbidden Door, which
Very
is coming
close.
up in a couple of weeks. So good time to hop back on because we got a shit ton of content, especially this week, up behind that paywall. But yeah, the what were we talking about when I got on my Steve Fall tangent before you brought up the
just that Jay Michael doesn't make $1 million writing great pieces about Taiji Shimori and Desperado.
And Fightful's original story was just that Will Ospreay was getting a week off, and it gets butchered by one outlet, and then other outlets follow suit, and then then it spreads like wildfire, and it's just a fucking joke. The whole thing is a joke. We've spent so much time talking about it. I don't think it's ever going to change until there's until more than a dozen people can make money doing this. It's not going to change because it allows amateurs and grifters and people like that to be a prominent part of this, because these types of sites and aggregators, and they exist in other sports. It's just no one pays attention to them because there's so many legitimate outlets that you can pay attention to.
Right.
The problem with wrestling is there's so few legitimate, trustworthy outlets that you can pay attention to that it leaves room in the ecosystem for all of this garbage. And unfortunately, it's not going to change. There's just not enough interest in pro wrestling to generate enough money to pay quality people to cover it. That's the bottom line. It really is as simple as that. So it leaves room for all these shitty websites to do the shitty things that they do to attempt to make some money. So, we'll probably never shut up about it.
No, well,
But
no, we're not. No, we're not going to.
Someone has to keep on it. I mean, it's just, and this was just another. And look, you might be saying, oh, well, I had somebody text me and said, oh, well, Ringside News. Come on, guys. Everyone knows Ringside News sucks. No, everyone in our circle knows they suck. The problem is your Gen Pop wrestling.
Yeah, Justin Credible doesn't think they suck. He clearly follows them. Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like, yeah, all of our listeners are well aware that Ringside News is a waste of fucking space and a waste of time, and they don't pay any attention. But look how many Twitter followers they have. Look at,
they have they have 381,000 followers.
And
they do a lot of traffic. Trust me, they do a lot of traffic.
Unfortunately, they're a sustainable operation, and unfortunately, random wrestling fans follow sites like that. We're a niche. WrestleNomics is a niche. Post wrestling is a niche. Whoever you like is a niche. Okay, it's these other sites that have everyone's attention. It's these other sites and the aggregators and the grifters and the con men and the Eric Bischoffs. They're the reason why so many wrestling fans, okay, have this version of Dave Meltzer in their head that isn't a real person. Because they don't really know anything about Dave Meltzer or what he does or what he thinks. They know what Eric Bischoff and all of these people tell you what Dave Meltzer is and who he is and what he thinks, which is all bullshit. So there's this fake version of Dave Meltzer that doesn't really exist that lives in the vast majority of wrestling fans' heads because of all of this bullshit wrestling media. And people like Bischoff know that, and he uses that to his advantage. We're everyone listening to this, and we're on the losing end of this.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't win because we're the niche.
Yeah, I'll tell you here. In May of 2024, per similarweb.com, which is pretty good. I've looked at what they did for us and for Flagship Patreon and Voice of Wrestling and whatever they say. So they're pretty close. They're pretty close in their numbers. Ringsidenews.com in May of 2024 had 5.3 million views. That's double what 411 Mania had, just to kind of give you an idea. Yeah. And those guys do well. 3.1 million for 411 Mania. You're happy. That's a good amount of traffic. Ringside News, double that. Almost double. 5.3 million in just May of 2024.
And 1,000 people will read Jay Michaels' incredible piece.
Mm-hmm.
1,000 people, give or take. It's not fair. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Just bitch and moan about it on our podcast.
Yeah, you just keep doing, what you do. And look, the thing about it is me and you do good. Okay, we can't complain. But all we can do is just keep doing the good work and doing it the best we can. And trying to at least give people who want a small slice of good work that kind of content. It's we're not going anywhere, and we're well supported. Okay, don't get me wrong, but I'm not throwing in the towel. I'll do this till I die.
Especially for the haters. Especially for the haters, you can't let them win.
Oh, no doubt about it. The only ones that are going to get me are the ones that outlive me. That's a promise. Then they can come tap dance on my grave if they want. That's fine. But, I'm not going to throw in the towel. There's too few outlets that are doing useful, solid work and you got to stay at it. You just have to. And thankfully we keep growing, and that's great. But, even if that stops, we got to keep going. It's hard enough that people who are doing things right are on the losing end. And, we're not perfect, but it also sucks that some of the people who are doing things right also do some things wrong because they feel pressured to do that to make it and make a little bit of money. But, that was an unplanned tangent.
It was an unplanned tangent, but that's okay. We'll go a little long this week. That's fine. We've been going short the last couple weeks. Go a little longer. New Japan, we don't have much left to go. New Japan Dominion 6-9 in Osaka-jo Hall. So obviously the main event, Taiji Ishimori, El Desperado. I feel like you can flip a coin on this one. You, at the beginning of the tournament, said El Desperado's never won a Best of the Super Juniors, so this is a great opportunity for him to win one. That seems great. That seems like the way to go. I don't know if Taiji Ishimori really benefits or gains anything by winning this. So I would say, yeah, let Despi get the, a Best of the Super Juniors win under his belt finally.
Yeah, it's time. Yeah, it's time. It's time for the mid-level junior to become a top junior.
You think Charlton's going to say that?
He already buried me. He said it.
He says it every time. He says it every time. I love it.
No, I think he said it once. And that was clearly a poke at me, which is fine.
Rightfully so. Yeah, rightfully so.
Rightfully so. But when I said it was true. I will always defend that. Right. When I said it was absolutely true. He had never won a title. He had never won a tournament. He was a nice little mid-level junior. He got elevated since, and that's great. I was a Despi fan from day one. I was always a big Despi fan. So, it's time for him to win this. So it's just interesting that ended up being this main event. Is there going to be some big angle coming out of this, or is it just, okay, that's going to be the main event and he's going to win and that's that?
Yeah, maybe they want this big moment. And maybe like we talked about, if maybe Tanahashi thinks that lumberjack match, I think it's just they want it to end on a nice moment, because maybe that lumberjack match is just going to be too much bullshit and too much shenanigans or whatever, and they're a little worried about that, which I guess let's get into that match right now, because it's Jon Moxley versus Evil, IWGP World Heavyweight title lumberjack match. Obviously, Evil's lumberjacks are going to be the House of Torture, and Moxley, when people are wondering, hey, who are the lumberjacks going to be for Jon Moxley, he's like, I want those cool old farts, is basically what he said, and he got the third generation out there. So you got what's the whole? Do we have the exact lineup of every one of the guys?
I would assume it's the guys who teamed with him in Corrigan.
Yeah,
but I haven't seen anything in the House of Torture. So
let me see if they
now
have
it can't
official...
be a walk-in brawl because it's a lumberjack match.
Right.
They're going to get thrown back in the ring. So
that
I'm sure that's who it is.
That helped me a little bit. The fact that it's going to be the old guys, and it's going to be like fucking Togi Makabe, who's got no time for this shit. Like I'm into that. I like that. That could maybe help me. Enjoy this match a little bit more. It's a lot of bullshit, and I'm cautiously optimistic about this match, I should say, and I just really don't like Evil, and I obviously hate the House of Torture, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, maybe this is the big blow off to they doing all the interference. Maybe those third generation guys just send the House of Torture packing, and maybe that's why you don't want this thing in the main event, and you instead want Desperado and Taiji Ishimori. That's just a cleaner match too, so it makes sense in that sense. But otherwise, the rest of the show we can run down pretty quickly. Never openweight title, Shingo versus Hanare. These guys have obviously had great matches. That there's no reason this match shouldn't fucking rock. IWGP tag team titles, New Japan Strong openweight tag team title 4-way elimination tornado match. Okay, Chase Owens and Kenta, Guerrillas of Destiny, TMDK, and Bishamon. So hopefully at the end of this night, one team has one set of tag team belts, and we can throw those other ones in a fucking river or something like that. And hopefully it's Bishamon or something, but who knows?
I think that's what they're doing. I mean, they're combining the titles. So there was a report that Shane Hayes' contract is coming up.
Who?
Adios.
Shane Hayes who?
Adios.
Oh, formerly known as Slapjack. Yes, Shane Hayes, formerly known as Slapjack. Got it.
Yeah.
I was confused. Shane. Oh, okay. It's Slapjack, right? Same guy that was Slapjack?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right.
Secretly sassy. Yeah. He's adios. I mean, there's not a more low effort guy in this company these days than Shane Hayes.
There's really not much, yeah. Which is funny because Mikey Nichols is also not that good anymore, but he kind of tries. He's just not that good, and Shane Hayes
effort's not the problem with Mikey Nichols.
No, he's just not good. It's funny because Shane Hayes is still better than Mikey Nichols, but he doesn't try, and Mikey Nichols does try. Yeah, he thinks it's a joke.
He doesn't take it seriously. So,
Bye.
I don't know what kind of free agent interest.
Go back and be Slapjack, fucker. Who cares? Bye.
I don't know what kind of free agent interest he would even get, but I mean, New Japan certainly doesn't need him. So I don't know, but his agent felt the need to put it out there. So we'll see.
All right. Jeff Cobb, Taiji Ishimori, New Japan World TV title. I'm looking forward to this. I think this should be pretty
great.
solid.
Yeah. I mean, and again, the 15-minute time limit with the TV title matches, that's a title with a focus and a purpose and an identity. And that's what they need. More titles with an identity.
Then we have never openweight 6-man tag team titles: Hiroshi Tanahashi, Oleg Boltin, and Toru Yano versus Bushi, Hiromu, and Yota Tsuji.
Yeah, and Tsuji pinned Yano to set this match up in Korakuen. So you could absolutely see a title change. It does not fucking matter. So, but I'm telling you, I think they think Boltin is a guy too, because they have Yano taking falls with the team.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I have a funny Yano story to tell, not this week, but when you know the story, right?
Yes.
This isn't the right week, but when we talk about that topic,
there'll be a good week to do it. Closer to Forbidden Door, I'm sure there'll be a very good time to talk about that topic.
Well, when guys start leaving, when 1 week we're going to probably do that as a topic when some of these guys, when these contracts run out in AEW. I have a funny Yano story. Anyway.
Yuya Uemura, Great Okan in a New Japan pure match here, as we're going to do Storm Catch Rules 1. Logic prevailed here. So it's a 15-minute time limit. Each competitor has 2 rope breaks, after which breaking at the ropes or leaving the ring will constitute a disqualification.
Basically the ROH pure rules or something similar. So we don't have to get the 61-minute match. Even the Japanese fans were like, fuck that. We're voting for the 15-minute.
I thought they were going to troll them and just do it anyway, but they're like, oh no, oh God, no, oh God, no.
Yeah.
So someone in the chat room, it was Jeff Cobb and Tomohiro Ishii. I don't know if I didn't say that right, or I just said Jeff Cobb.
I thought you said Cobb and Ishii.
I thought I did, but yeah, Jeff Cobb versus
Maybe
Ishii.
You did. Anyway,
maybe I didn't.
It's Cobb and Ishii for the TV title.
TMDK versus Bullet Club War Dogs, whatever. Yeah. And LJ Cleary also is there too.
Well, randomly, LJ Cleary is now here.
I thought that was Noah. Noah wrestler LJ Cleary is now also there. Okay. Well, cool.
I don't know why, but sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Kosei Fujita and Robbie Eagles, they want the junior tag titles. So they'll probably win again, right? And set up a junior tag title match on the next tour at some point.
And then a match that I'm really looking forward to, Naito versus Callum Newman, I think is a really cool, just random singles match to have. So this could be one that we could look back on. Callum Newman does, has a spot here or there that, stands out or whatever. It's one of those matches that a good pro wrestling company can use for the next decade. Just little stuff in this match about, Callum Newman, who's not ready for the spot and is obviously going to lose, but, maybe there's one little thing he does here and there and earns some respect or gets a hope spot or whatever. I think there's a lot you could do with that. So I like that. Just a nice little clean singles match here. We obviously know Naito's going to win, but pretty cool to see anyway.
I think it's a vote of confidence that, if you remember, Kenny Omega had random singles matches with both Jay White and Juice Robinson at one point before either one of those guys were being pushed. And Kenny gave them a lot. He gave them some, and this is when they were young boys. And he gave them near falls, the whole nine. And this was when Kenny was like, on the verge of being one of the biggest stars in the world. And feels like a similar booking. It feels like, Callum Newman's getting this match with Tetsuya Naito, who's a multi-time IWGP champion, and will probably be one again and is the biggest star in the company. And I don't think it's a throwaway thing. I think they see something in Callum Newman. So
there you go. That is New Japan Dominion 6-9. We'll review it next week on the show, but we are going to review this week before we get out of here. Oh, you thought the world of MLW was going to stop. NXT Battleground. Sorry, guys. I don't know. Do you really give a shit about NXT Battleground? We'll talk about it next week.
We should talk. I guess we should talk about Ethan Page and Jordan Grace.
Okay. All right.
Somehow Ethan Page has gotten over with their fan base. They obviously haven't seen the guy wrestle much.
Well, they're going to find out on Saturday or whatever when he faces Trick Williams.
Maybe
he'll NXT title.
He seems motivated. Maybe he'll have a great match with Trick Williams. He seems motivated. He seems like he's out to prove something.
Definitely.
Look, maybe this is what needed to happen for Ethan Page.
It's a good thing. Jumps are good. Sometimes guys get a kick in the ass and they say, "Fuck, this is my last thing," or "This is all I can." Yeah, it's good. I love movement in wrestling. Sometimes you need that.
No, for sure. But maybe having a chip on his shoulder is what he needs.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the size. He has the look. He can talk, but he has never been able to put it all together. Ever. We've been talking about this for years. So maybe now he has a chip on his shoulder. This is what Ethan Page needs to finally get over the top and become a star. That's the optimistic take here. The pessimistic take is we've seen Ethan Page for years and we know what he is, and he's Ethan Page. And WWE fans are just excited. They're in a great position where their fans are just excited about anything they're given, which includes a lower mid-card AEW guy who they couldn't even bother to book and put in ROH jumping. I mean, they were excited about Lexus King, and he has flopped exactly like we knew he would because Brian Pillman Jr. stinks. Ethan Page is way better than him and has always had more upside than someone like that. But maybe he needs a chip on his shoulder to get to that next level. Maybe it's a good thing. You know, I'd be annoyed that I'm in NXT if I were someone like him. But maybe he feels like, okay, I could prove myself here and get over, and it's working out great so far. And then, you know, maybe they'll trust me on the main roster. But, you know, and Jordan Grace, I mean, she got over in the Rumble, and, you know, it's very obvious that they want to hire Jordan Grace and probably will when her contract's up. I mean, that's what's going on here. As, you know, and as well they should. And she'll face Roxanne Perez. And then the rest of the card, I mean, they got the OC down there for this one too, because they don't do anything with them on the main roster. So we'll see what they can do with Axiom and Nathan Frazier. But fuck it. Belt up the OC. Why not?
Yeah, who cares?
Obafemi, Joe Coffey, and Wes Lee. Obafemi, they really believe in him. He's raw as fuck. He's a project.
He looks great, though. He's one of those jump off the page guys.
I'm not writing him off. Guy's a project, and he could become a big star. We'll see. You know, we'll see. And, you know, he's in there with two guys, and they, you know, it's triple threat. And Shayna Baszler, they're going to do a grappling match style deal with Lola Vice, and a lot of main roster talent on this show. And there's a lot of rumblings that there can be some big surprises on the show. Just leave that out there. And then a ladder match with a bunch of the women. You know, Nishin, again,
of course,
from the main
just a
roster.
random fucking ladder match. And Suit Williams, who wrote the preview for VoicesOfWrestling.com, brought up a great point. When's the last ladder match that meant something, or you thought about, or you got excited about, or you remembered anything from? We have just rendered ladder matches completely, just they're nothing. They mean, what's the last ladder match you can remember, Joe?
Listen, Suit Williams doesn't have to lecture us on this. We've been down on ladder matches for a long time.
Yeah, but like, there's not even like
right.
memorable spots that happen to them anymore. They just exist because they have to. You know,
I think there was one where I was out on ladder matches. I think I was driving home, or I was in a car coming back from the New Orleans WrestleMania weekend, the second New Orleans WrestleMania weekend, not the Daniel Bryan one, the one a couple years later. The last real, true, good WrestleMania weekend.
Yes, yeah.
Or you could argue for New York, but I would say New Orleans. So there was an NXT ladder match. I think Ricochet was in it, a bunch of these other guys. And I remember watching it on my phone in the car on the way home and feeling nothing. And that's when it hit me. I'm just tired of this it just doesn't do anything for me. Like, technically, I guess this is a quote-unquote great match, but is it? Is it? If you've seen it all before and they're all the same and you can't think of many new things to do, you know, because it's all been done and there's a million people in it.
Jordan Smith, who's one of the best in the No chat room every single week, has a great point here. He says, what does it say about a ladder match when the biggest pop in a ladder match now is when they pull out a table?
It's an excellent point.
That's what a point, because it's true.
Yeah.
These guys get on these ladders, they do a bunch of dumb shit and fly off, and nobody gives a fuck, and then a table comes out and everybody goes, yeah. It's like the ladder used to be the big deal. The ladder was like, these guys are wrestling on fucking ladders. Like, that used to be the big deal, and now it's just so commonplace. And this one, my God, Mishin, Fallon Henley, Lash Legend, Sol Ruka, Jada Parker, Kalani Jordan. Man, I don't know. I don't know about this one.
Pretty green.
Meechin's got her work. I hope she's got her working boots on.
Meechin is the crossing guard directing traffic here. There's a bunch of names in that match that are going to be answers to trivia questions, by the way, because they're not all going to make it. And there's some people in this match I really like. I think Sol Ruka has all the potential in the world. I guess there's one name I really like, but The rest, I don't know. Maybe some of them will make it. Maybe a couple of them won't, and they'll fade away and never make it. They'll have some pre-practice spots that they're going to do. I'm sure Sol Ruka will do something crazy. And it's an NXT women's match involving ladders, so you just hope that what's the over-under on blown ACLs? 1.5? Want to put that at 1.5?
1.5.
Over-under.
We got one
blown ACLs.
Oh, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wrestlers in this match.
We got 12 legs. So the over-under is 1.5.
That's true. 12 legs. I'm thinking about it as people, but you could tear. Yeah. All right.
Got to take the under, right?
I'm going to take the under, but I don't feel good about it.
Right. You can't feel. Yeah. I don't think the odds are that great. Like, you don't get, it seems like a lock, but it really isn't.
Yeah. I don't love it. Because what's going to, it's one of those bets that you're not going to make, and then you're going to watch this match, and then, Sol Ruka is going to, tumble off and land weird, and you're going to go, damn it. Damn it. I could have made some money on that. Probably not. Yeah, I don't know. This will be a thing. This will be a match for sure. So
it's NXT and it's overproduced and it's cartoon wrestling for unserious people. I hate it, but we have to watch it. We have to come back here and talk about it. So we'll see if that chip on Ethan Page's shoulder matters. We'll see if there's some big surprises in terms of, TNA wrestlers or other surprises on the show. And, it's NXT is over with a certain demographic of fan. There's no question about
it.
I mean, they've got ratings that are growing in an environment where it's tough to grow ratings.
Yeah, putting a bunch of young hot people on TV and having them, wrestle seems to be working.
It's reality show wrestling. I mean, I don't take any of these people seriously, and I'm not interested in any of them because to me, it's like I like pro wrestling. I want to watch Takashi Sugiura and Masa Kitamiya make each other bleed. I don't care about Jada Parker and never will. They're appealing to a certain demographic that, it's like Love Island, the wrestling show is like what this is. It's what NXT is. It's just totally unappealing to me. Rich, I don't think it's for me. And I don't think it's for you.
It's not.
They don't care about whether it's for us.
No. And they shouldn't, because the ratings are letting them know that what they're doing is working. So, yeah,
The problem is this might be the future of the company.
Yeah.
And if this is the future of WWE, that means it's the future of wrestling. I know that sounds ominous, but it's true.
Yeah.
Bully Ray's calling them PLEs. I mean, what WWE does, they lead the dog on the leash. I mean, and everybody follows. Like a bunch of lemmings, the industry follows. It's why it's so disappointing that AEW goes down the sports entertainment roads that they go down. Because we need something for wrestling fans. Because this bullshit is the future of WWE. This garbage right here. And I don't know. This show might not be half bad because there's a lot of main roster people on it, and
Jordan Grace is good too.
Show,
which Sue pointed out in his
good.
review that you have this person that came off the street and is just 1,000 times better than any other woman in that entire roster, and it's like, what is going at that performance center? It's like, can somebody be good? Can you make a good wrestler out of this performance center?
No, because they're not making wrestlers.
Right, they're making hot people that do things that they're making Lola Vices who twerks, and then people go, oh, that's great, fantastic. I love that this hot woman is twerking.
I got to push back a little. How many of these people are truly hot? I mean, I have to push back.
Look, I don't find them hot, but I think a lot of them are conventionally hot.
We probably shouldn't have this conversation.
We should.
I mean, I guess most of them are conventionally attractive.
Most of them are conventionally attractive. They're not. Most of them aren't for me, but I get why everybody thinks every single one of these people is hot.
I guess. I think there's some people on this roster that I don't even think are conventionally attractive. But again, we probably shouldn't have this conversation.
Let's not do that segment. Yes,
the idea
I
is
agree. Luke Gallows not that hot. I'm with you that Luke Gallows not that hot. So
they're creating people who are television presentable more than they're creating wrestlers. That's the idea behind NXT. It's dreadful.
I don't like it.
It's awful.
It's
so bad.
Because anytime it's like, this is happening, this is pretty big, or someone's like, that was a great segment, I watch it, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Not me. Not for me, pal, but if this is your thing, if Roxanne Perez and Jordan Grace having like in-ring promos is like your thing, man, it's like, all right, I mean, not my thing, but cool.
Oh, the cornball storylines and the bad acting, and it's just such.
What was
shit.
what was the one where it's Jordan Grace? It's the fucking tiara wearing the beauty queen. What's her fucking name? Santino's daughter.
Oh yeah.
I forget what it was, and it was just like, you're gonna have to work harder to take this crown. And then Jordan Grace like, I don't need your crown. I'm the TNA knockout. And I'm like, what am I watching? What is this?
Shit. And,
God.
And you got The Rock's daughter, who they were begging to cut, but they can't. They would love to cut her. They would cut her tomorrow if The Rock was like, hey, you know what? We got to do what's best for business.
Yeah.
They would cut her in a fucking second if he gave them the green light. She is useless.
She is the term drizzling shits. That's her, man. She's
good at nothing. She can do nothing. Oh my God. But they have to keep her around, and they have to give her a prominent role. So, they do the GM thing just to give her something to do. Oh my God. She's the shits. As soon as he gives them the green light, she's out the fucking door.
They got the paperwork ready. They got everything ready. It's just a matter of hit send. It's just hit send. They got it going.
Speaking of out the door, what happened to out the mud?
What happened out the mud? You're right.
In the mud? What are they called?
Out the mud. They were out the mud. They were out the mud. I think it was duh, right? Wasn't it duh? All right. I just made that up. I don't think they're out the mud.
In the mud, out the mud.
Jada Parker was a member of Out the Mud, but I think Scripps leaving probably threw a wrench.
Well, they had the two other guys, the tag team. Where are they?
Bronco and Lucius or whatever. Lucian, not
big
Lucius.
Hosses. They had some potential, those guys.
Yeah. I don't know.
Where are they?
I don't know.
Cares. Half these people will be trivia questions.
For sure.
All right, let's move on. We got to review this fucking show next week.
We're way over time. We still have to review MLW Battle Riot number 6. So this was on YouTube for free, so you can join us in watching Battle Riot 6. And that is going to be a regular occurrence now for MLW. We should talk about that. It appears that they are moving off of Triller TV, powered by Fight, as a lot of people are, and going to a YouTube subscription model moving forward for MLW. So it looks like you're going to have to subscribe for whatever they called this the MLW Club or something like that. Forget what it was, but you subscribe to that, and then you're going to be able to get most of their pay-per-views coming up. So it looks like they're moving off of Triller. No more Triller Plus or any of that shit. So yeah, they're done.
They're off Triller. This was free on YouTube. The next one is free on YouTube, whatever that's called. And then after that, it's the direct to customer YouTube subscription service for like $6.99 or $7.99. Which kind of gives you some insight on how the Fight Plus, they were obviously making less than $7.99 per show, per person. You get what I'm trying to say with Fight Plus, because they're moving to this YouTube model, which is direct to consumer, and I assume they get that whole $7.99, right? Or did they have to split that with YouTube?
I'm sure they got. They got to split. Yeah, YouTube's gonna
get something. YouTube got to get a taste of something.
Right. Alphabet / Google, they're gonna get a taste no matter what. Don't worry.
Well, there's not much to chop up when it's only $7.99, which again tells you what Fight Plus was. They were getting next to nothing, because $7.99 is not much to chop up, but they gave you this one for free. You get the next one for free, and then they're moving to the YouTube gimmick. So, Battle Riot. Janai Kai defeats Del Miex. Did I turn this on late? Because the first match I saw was Alex Kane and AJ Francis, and I like Janai Kai. I would have liked to have seen this. I must have turned it on late.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, Del Miex sucks.
Del Miex is one of the worst major like whatever you want to call major. I don't know if you want to call it major league or whatever distinction you want to do. She fucking stinks. She's terrible. So
listen, they have Satoshi Kojima and Matt Riddle and Alex Kane and this is a major league promotion.
Okay, well then she's one of the worst women in a major league promotion that you'll ever see, and has been wrestling for a decade plus and is awful, just terrible.
All right, so I just completely, I don't know what happened. I thought I watched the whole show. I watched the show live. I must have turned it on late, but Del Miex stinks. I'm glad Janai Kai won. I'm sad she's not doing the gimmick with the burlap sack anymore.
She's a Contra. She's Contra aligned now.
So she's moved on. She's got some potential. I think she's got an interesting look. Great facial expression. She's a good heel. I like Janai Kai.
She's still under 30 too, so I think there's still some time with her too.
So Ritual Combat, Alex Kane and AJ Francis with the aforementioned Mark Henry from earlier in the show.
Joe Dombrowski called him the hottest free agent in wrestling today, and I was like,
okay,
all right. I mean, maybe by the very definition of free agent, maybe there's not a whole lot of other free agents out there, but I don't know that I would call Mark Henry the hottest free agent in wrestling in 2024. But you know what? Promoters promote, and good for you. But
yeah. So Mark Henry and Teddy Long were the elders who were sitting on the stage watching this match, and because the Alex Kane AJ Francis feud is Alex Kane is Boumaier is for the people, AJ Francis says he is for the people, so it's for the culture here. So they had this ritual combat. I thought this was I know this isn't a high bar, but I have never seen an AJ Francis match this good.
Oh, it was good. No, this match was unironically good.
Yeah, certainly nothing he ever did in WWE could touch this. None of his indie matches I've seen have been any good. He's been in MLW and his matches are usually short and sweet. This was an excellent plunder match. I mean, I thought they did a great job here and they told a good story and I liked the finish. And this was a lot of fun. And I thought this was the best match on the show.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I did not think I was going to go to this battle right and tell you the ritual combat, which by the way, when they announced the rules for the match, I was like, oh, this is terrible. What it essentially was,
explain it.
What the rules were, it was kind of like the old classic, like ambulance match or a stretcher match or whatever. But what you would have to do is you'd have to go in the ring and you'd have to knock out your opponent and then walk to this throne, sit in this throne, and then you had to sit in the throne unabated for 10 seconds. Okay. And by unabated, it meant not that you had to get knocked off the throne, just that nobody else could be near or touching the throne or touching you on the throne. Because at one point it's like 8, 9, then AJ Francis grabbed Alex Kane's foot and they're like, yeah, that's it. No, that counts. So that then they had to try it again. So that was kind of the gimmick there, is you had to sit in the throne for 10 seconds unabated. So that is what the gimmick was. But yeah, I mean, they busted their ass. Alex Kane, I really like Alex Kane, and but I thought Francis did fine here. I thought he was taking some big bumps, clearly trying, and they told a pretty good story where Alex Kane just by war of attrition eventually put this guy through a table, did some big bombs to him, went to the chair, and Francis got close, but he just couldn't get there. And then he had his arms stretched out, couldn't quite make it, and Alex Kane won ritual combat. And then Mark Henry and Teddy Long cut promos on a guy they've never watched wrestle ever and know nothing about. Because Teddy Long said, one of these days you're going to make a great champion, player. And it's like, that man used to be the champion of MLW, sir.
Yeah, he was a champion for a very long time.
Right. But I like Teddy Long. And then Mark Henry said, you're now the king of this throne. It's like, he doesn't know what king of what throne, whatever. Yeah, sure, there's I get it. But yeah, his men knew nothing of Alex Kane or MLW. But that's fine.
And Teddy Long still hasn't seen Alex Kane wrestle because he fell asleep during the match. So
is that true?
I don't know if you saw. That is 100% true. He
Oh,
fell asleep.
That's great.
During the match. Fans took pictures of him sleeping in his chair next to the throne. So, yeah. But Teddy Long could not wait to just go up to Court Bauer and say, "Where's my envelope, player?" Because he did not want to be there. So I'm sure they got paid very well for their appearance here. And we'll probably never see them again.
No, but, they got big pops. They got big pops. But yeah, I did love Teddy Long saying, "You're going to make a great king, and someday you're going to make a great champion too." I was like, yeah, all right.
Former world champion in the very promotion that year.
Less than 2 months ago, too. 2 or 3 months ago, he was the champion. That's fine. That's all right for a year, but that's fine. That's okay.
So Satoshi Kojima defends against Filthy Tom Lawlor. And again, Kojima does not work by the hour in MLW. And this was long for a Kojima match.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is an Iron Man match by Kojima MLW standards.
So, yeah, he retains. Good match. This would be the second match on the card on a G1 show. Best way I can describe it. They go out there for 10 minutes. They're instructed not to try to steal the show. And one guy goes over and the other guy loses.
They did not steal the show. I'll tell you that. They were certainly.
That's right. It was fine. Yeah. Aggressively fine. Battle Riot. 40 men. I thought it was hilarious when Tom Lawlor kept coming out First, he came out as Arachnaman. Where's Aaron Quinn? Aaron Quinn, this was your moment.
Yes, it was.
Arachnaman comes out shooting the webs. Remember, we're in Georgia, right? So we knew it wasn't Brad Armstrong. He is dead. So it was not Brad Armstrong, but it was Tom Lawlor after he had been eliminated, trying to come back as Arachnaman. And then he tried to come back as the assassin.
Yes, I think actually he was the
assassin
assassin first, and then he was Arachnaman, but that's okay either way.
Yes. So this was not Jody Hamilton.
no, also not Jody Hamilton. That would be a tough get too. So
not Jody Hamilton. Unmasked is he padded the outfit so he looked like an authentic out of shape assassin.
Yeah, that was great.
Fantastic.
That was a great touch. Yeah, the Arachnaman, he didn't do anything because he could pass as Brad Armstrong. But yeah, Jody Hamilton, he could not pass that. But he stuffed some pillows or whatever into his trunks and looked like an authentic Jody Hamilton, the assassin. Yeah. So all he needed to do was come out as the Flame next, and then he could have went and done the whole gamut. But
well, you know, when Kimchi came out, because you know Kimchi has been in every battle riot.
Yes.
Now, I thought to myself, oh well, they know that we know that Kimchi's been in every battle riot. So this is another good spot for Tom Law, but it wasn't. It was just, it was Kimchi who's been in every battle riot.
I do not believe that was Steve Lombardi either, right? It's just,
well, okay, it wasn't Frank Dalton because Frank Dalton is dead. So it definitely wasn't the original Kimchi, Frank Dalton. I don't think it was Steve Lombardi. Probably not.
I think it's just a guy.
But you never know. I guess you never know, right?
I wonder if Cage Match is giving Kimchi this match. Let me see if it or giving
nope.
No.
Here's how I know that. You know how I know? You cannot rate the Battle Riot matches on Cage Match because Kimchi doesn't have a profile.
Oh no.
That's right. Because you know the Cage Match rules. If there's a wrestler involved,
oh no,
that does not have a profile, you cannot rate the match. So you cannot rate a Battle Riot match, any of them, on Cage Match, because Kimchi has been in every Cage Match. He's been in every Battle Riot.
Damn it.
How about that?
That's so good. So we need a parenthetical. We need like a parentheses, this guy. So because like the masked assassin was parentheses Tom Lawler. We need to find out who the parentheses Kimchi was, but we're not going to.
One Frank Dalton. He's dead. Father of Dirty Andy Dalton, by the way, who's canceled. It wasn't Buddy Wayne, who was also Kimchi at one point. Are there any other dead Kimchi?
Yeah, who else? Who? I don't know. Yeah, we're kind of.
Well, we know Steve Lombardi, obviously. Trying to rack my brain. You know of any other verified...
I'm looking on Cage Match, and there's a man called Johnny Stewart who did Kimchi.
The illustrious John Stewart from Texas.
No, this guy looks like he worked Memphis, Windy City Pro Wrestling, and AWA, but I don't know much.
Oh, that's the illustrious John Stewart. Yeah, I know.
Oh, is that him? Okay.
That's the guy I'm talking about.
Yeah, the illustrious Johnny Stewart. Yeah, that's him. He also played Kimchi once, I guess.
Is he dead?
As far as I know, he's alive.
Could have been him. I would respect Court Bauer a lot if he booked an authentic
Johnny
Kimchi.
Stewart. Yeah, if he got Johnny Stewart.
Yeah, like if he got an authentic one, authentic Kimchi, instead of just whoever's hanging around the back, instead of like Bud Heavy, because it's probably like Bud Heavy, right? Or someone else some other MLW regular. Nah, Bud Heavy's too fat.
This guy was a little trim. He moved around pretty well.
He was the traditional Kimchi size.
Yeah,
he was the traditional Kimchi size. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Johnny Stewart might be dead. He's not dead.
The illustrious Johnny Stewart.
I thought I heard of him die. I thought he died. Does he have a cage? He
has a cage match. That's how I found out that he was the other Kimchi. He hasn't wrestled since 2007. None of his websites that are linked work. At one point, he owned the domain johnstewart2018.com, which is a pretty good domain to own.
Does he... Well, what's it say under obit on Cage Match? The obit.
Yeah, doesn't say that he's dead.
He must be alive. Okay. He's younger than I thought, too.
Yeah, so good for
He was a regular Kimchi at some point.
He in like 2006, he was working for a company in North
Oh,
Carolina, like CWF Mid Atlantic or something like that.
That's a hokey Kimchi. I don't.
I
count
agree.
that
I
as
don't
a
think.
kimchi.
I don't count that as an official kimchi at all.
No, I don't count that as a. Why did I think he worked? Did he work Texas at some? I thought he was down in like Global at some point. I guess not. I must be confusing him with someone else.
Well, it looked like he worked this. So he worked a match in Lincolnshire, Illinois, the Cubby Bear North in Lincolnshire, a sports bar in this area for the American Wrestling Association Superstars of Wrestling. Also on that card was Colt Cabana versus CM Punk. So maybe we can ask one of those guys if they know the whereabouts of one Johnny Stewart.
I'll get right on that.
Yeah.
Ask Punk if he remembers working with you. He might remember.
He might remember that, yeah. Ace
He
Steel
worked
versus Vic
AWF,
Capri as well in the most name a 2001 independent wrestling match in the city of Chicago or the surrounding suburbs. Ace Steel versus Vic Capri is that one. Vic Capri's still going, by the way.
He worked. Johnny Stewart worked AWF. Did you get to his episode yet?
I've not gotten to that one yet. No.
Okay.
I don't. Well, actually, you know what? Hold on a minute. I may have.
He worked Johnny Gunn.
Oh, I did watch
like
some Johnny. I watched some Johnny Gunn. Let me see if I got some Johnny Stewart here. Let's see.
Looked like a house show. I don't think it was.
Oh shit! All right, yeah, no.
I didn't even know they ran house shows.
Yeah.
Well, when you need to wash money, you could have to run all kinds of shit.
Right.
You're washing money. Push Wabistics. Okay, so the rest of this Battle Riot, we had Adam Priest. Adam Priest showed up. We were in Georgia.
Yeah.
C.W. Anderson showed up.
He looks good.
Danger.
C.W. Anderson looks good.
He did. He looked all right. Chris Danger showed up from Florida, because we were down in Georgia. These were some of the local surprises that showed up in the match.
Chris Danger, the YouTuber,
assassin.
YouTuber gamer.
Hey, look, that guy's got millions of followers, doesn't he? There's no reason not to book him.
Absolutely.
So get him in there. And then all of the regulars, the MLW. Oh, Jimmy Yang. Jimmy Yang was in the Battle Riot, right? Mystico was in the Battle Riot. Mystico, of course. Paul
Walter
MLW's
Hauser continues to not get any reactions despite being an Emmy award.
Hey, you know what though? He looked all right.
He tries. The guy tries. The guy has a good personality.
Yeah,
I'd book him. I get it.
All right. I mean, physically he didn't look all right, but his performance, he looked all right.
Yeah.
Slim
J did some crazy shit. Scotty Riggs came out.
Yeah, Slim J. Yeah.
Did the American Males
Scotty
thing.
Riggs, another good one. Yeah. So Jimmy Yang looked good. La Mystica eliminates Jesus Rodriguez. I took notes, so I'm reading them. Sorry.
At this point, just read your notes, yeah, so we can get out of here.
So Mystico eliminated Jesus Rodriguez, so I still don't understand why he's not working as El Local. I don't get it. But he beat him with the La Mystica, and then Mystico got eliminated like pretty early. I was surprised by that. Star Jr. was the one who eliminated. I guess Mystico did, hey, look, if I'm getting thrown out of this thing, it's not going to be by one of the geeks that work here. Okay, so have one of my own. I'm going to have one of my buddies throw me out. So Star Jr. eliminated him. Paul Walter Hauser is the one who eliminated Tom Lawlor before Tom came back or attempted to come back under the masks. Now, Mads Krugar came down, put Akira through a table. Okay. And I don't know if Krugar ever even got in the match, right? I don't even think he got in the match.
I don't remember what happened to Mads Kruger. Yeah, I don't.
Well, he attacked Akira and put him through the table. And then
I remember that. I don't remember how he got eliminated or if he got eliminated.
No, I think he just hand waved it and left. I don't even think he got in the ring because anyway, Minoru Suzuki was in there and he's part of Contra. We forgot to mention that.
Mm-hmm. Big news.
So he came out as a surprise behind the mask and he's part of Contra. He eliminated Adam Priest. He eliminated Josh Bishop. And then it came down to Suzuki, Davey Boy Smith Jr. Did you notice them fist bump when Suzuki came in?
Yeah, I like that. Little nice little note. Yeah.
So Suzuki, Davey Boy Smith Jr., Sammy Callahan, and Tim Thatcher, who's a heel here. It was those four guys with Riddle, who's a babyface here. So y'all knew how this was going to end. I mean, Riddle overcame the odds and these four killers, which was preposterous. I hate matches like this. I hate finishes like this. In Dragon Gate, these 4 guys would have beat the shit out of Matt Riddle and thrown him out of the ring.
Tossed him, tossed his ass,
and then turned on each other. But Matt Riddle, of course, overcomes it all. He wins. He gets the title shot against Kojima. He's probably going to win the title. And I'm sure a lot of people will be super pleased about Matt Riddle, MLW World Champion. So, yeah, there you go. That was Battle Riot.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a fun little stupid match like it always is, and I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, it's 50 minutes and a lot of fun. They do the nostalgia pops at the right time, and there's enough decent stars mixed with enough like independent guys that aren't in the company, and then they also put all their just random like your Dr. Cornwallis's or whatever. But yeah, they do a good job of booking these. They're pretty good for a 50-minute match. Pretty solid.
What do you say? Royal Rumbles are like pizza, right?
Yeah,
it can only be so bad. Like, it's enjoyable on some level.
Yeah, they're always pretty good. They're always pretty damn good. And this one was no exception. So one thing we forgot to note is a great spot and 2 professionals. This is how you know they're professionals here. MLW World Heavyweight Title match. The ring announcer is introducing both these guys. So he does, and from Las Vegas, Nevada, Tom Lawler. And then he goes to Satoshi Kojima and he goes, accompanied to the ring by Okamura, weighing in at da-da-da-da-da from da-da-da-da-da. It's Okamura. So obviously he was supposed to say Satoshi Kojima, but he says Okamura without skipping a beat. Okamura goes to the ropes and goes, ah,
yeah,
and
like fuck yeah,
yeah.
I'm
And then the guy goes, Satoshi Kojima. The Kojima goes, ah. Yeah. And I was like, those are workers, They didn't skip a beat. They didn't look around. Okamura was just like, it's my time, baby. Let's do this,
They're announcing me twice. Hell yeah.
Right.
He's like,
he just turns it because he got Okamura and he put his hand in the air, then he was waiting, and then the guy did the big Okamura and he was like, oh, me again. Okay, yeah. He just gets all excited about it.
Awesome.
I was like, it's so good. Oh, God.
And I guess we should also mention that Cesar Duran is Selena De La Renta's father.
Oh, of course. Yeah. The big news out of MLW Battle Riot 6 is that I am your poppy. And then Selena went, no. And I went, okay, all right, whatever.
Yeah, my bad. Her poppy. Would this promotion be any worse without these 2 goofs?
No,
Can
go
we
away.
Just get rid of them?
Go away.
Why are they there? Why are you paying these people?
I don't know.
Does anyone care?
I thought they wrote
Selena
off. I thought, because I was at the Azteca Lucha show, she was clearly not at that Azteca Lucha show because all the stuff they filmed she was not there. She never appeared on camera. And I said, okay, obviously something happened. They're writing her off or whatever. Then they did the videos where she was in Boyle Heights or whatever because we're still sucking off the teat of Lucha Underground nostalgia for some fucking reason. So we're doing that. And I'm like, okay, whatever. This is a good way to get her out of here. And then all of a sudden she's back now. And now we're doing a whole different thing of Cesar Duran is her poppy. And I don't care. I don't care. Why would I care?
It looked like they killed her off.
I thought they did.
It looked like Matanza, who they can't call Matanza, killed her.
Yes.
Right? That was the idea. Like she was in the room with not Jeff Cobb and not Matanza. My monster. Right? And she gets locked in the room with Cesar Duran's monster. And the idea was he killed her. But now she's back. And now Cesar Duran is her poppy. And we're stuck with these 2 assholes.
Yeah.
Who do nothing but drag the show down. We don't need these people. No one cares. And the people they're aligned with don't make any sense. They just, okay, I'm going to take this random luchador and I'm going to take this. And then,
they're just splitting up Mexican wrestlers essentially at a point. Yeah.
The wrestlers don't get it. They don't understand. It's just,
it's a disaster. And it's going to, this feud must continue.
Yeah, and it's the central plot of the fucking promotion.
Yeah.
I gotta piss so bad. We gotta end this show.
We're done, man. Let's go. All right, so that is it. That is the Flagship. Voicesofwrestling.com for previews, reviews, columns. FlagshipPatreon.com for all that bonus content we talked about. Written write-ups, written reviews, match reviews, all that sort of stuff is up there. Bonus audio, reviews of fucking who killed WCW, all that stuff is up there. FlagshipPatreon.com, as well as Instant Reaction Live coming up later this month for Forbidden Door. Okay, that is it for us. That is Joe. I am Rich. We will talk to you next time. Take care. Bye.
Do you like wrestling trivia? Then check out the 5-Star Match Game, the Pro Wrestling Quiz Show. I'm Joe Gagney, and every episode, I grill 3 contestants with 5 rounds of power-packed wrestling trivia. We have over 30 evergreen episodes in the archives covering WWE, AEW, Japan, Mexico, and much, 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 much more. Play along at home and check it out today.
Brace yourself for something fuel nominal. Unleaded 88 is the clear fuel choice. It's cheaper, cleaner, and greener. And it's grown by Iowa corn farmers. Now that's totally worth the hype. So pump it up with Unleaded 88.